Last, on Everdark, Caemorn is revealed as Callie to his bloodline. And if that's not enough, to top it off, he returns the Harrows back to life. Now a week has passed, and the plan to reintegrate Callie is underway. Episode 142, Confidence. "Tell me that this is going to work, Seer," Balthazar asked the other immortal.
"It will work,"
Seer answered, with the same grace she had the past dozen times he'd asked. Julian smiled at the patient tone she took with Balthazar. He understood how much was riding on Balthazar's shoulders that night. Others might argue that Damon was there too, if things got out of hand, so there was nothing truly to fear. Hell, they all were ready to pitch in against the Callie Slicers. But the instructions, the plan that had been left behind by Callie and Iros was clear that the two of them had to make this work on their own. "You don't see any deviations? You don't see any forks in the road? There's not a chance that it could all go sideways?" Balthazar asked Seer.
"It will work,"
she repeated. Balthazar rolled his shoulders and shook out his arms before continuing to move restlessly around the throne room, naturally giving a bouncing bow every time his orbit brought him within a foot or two of the dais where Julian and Damon sat on their thrones. While the streets outside were thronged with vampires, as more and more came to Nightvallen, there were few inside the throne room itself. Just himself, Damon, Christian, Balthazar, Caemorn, Seer, Sophia, Arceus, Lizette, Julian's parents, and Christian's parents. Fiona was not there, as she was playing the role of catching Callie Slicers with the other most powerful wyvern. Balthazar had wanted no one else present because he needed to concentrate, and in case he failed, despite all of Seer's far-seeing. Caemorn had not disagreed with the plan, but he had hardly said a word since the evening began. Truly though, the fewer people who knew about their plan, the better. Mephi let out a small mew that reminded Julian he had not counted the kitten as one of the attendees. Sophia had Mephi on her shoulder. Balthazar couldn't hold the beloved cat and concentrate, but couldn't bear to be away from the black kitten either. Mephi watched Balthazar pace before he yawned and then fell asleep in Sophia's arms.
"Mephi is not concerned,"
Julian said to Damon. "Mephi is right not to be," Damon answered. He took up Julian's nearest hand and laced their fingers together. He slowly rubbed an infinity symbol on the back of Julian's hand that mirrored the one on his wrist.
"I heard it from Caemorn's own mouth in Moonfall that everything was going to be all right, but I'm still nervous,"
Julian admitted. "Understandable." Damon nodded briefly. "If someone had told you that you would become a vampire prince before it happened, and you would like it..."
"More than like it,"
Damon smiled. "More than like it a week before it happened, would you believe it fully? Let alone that your parents would also be returned to you?"
"No, definitely not,"
Julian agreed, smiling so hard his cheeks hurt just thinking about his parents. It still hadn't quite sunk in yet that they were back, even though they were but a foot away from him. "The more we want something, the harder it is to believe we will get it," Damon answered. Christian followed Balthazar with his eyes for a moment, before hopping down from the dais, looping his arm through his master's and pacing alongside him, though now it looked more like a stroll, except it was in a circle or more like a tight oval. Immediately, at Christian's touch, Balthazar smiled and he calmed down a little.
"A very little,"
Julian thought, and a wash of sympathy ran through him again. His mother stirred beside him, leaning down and murmuring in his ear.
"Those two are a study in contrasts."
She was referring to Balthazar and Caemorn.
Aren't they, though?
His father said with a grunt of amusement. In contrast to Balthazar's pacing and jerky movements, Caemorn kept himself icily still in the center of the throne room. Julian was pretty sure that he wasn't even breathing. He understood why Caemorn was acting as he was as well. Caemorn, or Callie, was about to become whole once more. Whether he was crazy and homicidal, or himself, would be determined by whether Balthazar could mentally control the Callie Slicers.
"Explain the plan again, please, son,"
his father asked. Julian looked up at his parents' handsome faces. His father was in a tailored suit, looking a bit like Daniel Craig's version of James Bond, with his muscled, compact form, chiseled jawline, and steely blue eyes. His mother wore a black silk top and matching flowing pants. Julian couldn't help but be absurdly proud at the figures they cut. They were already being courted by every vampire bloodline, since neither Damon nor Julian could turn them. Unlike the Thorns, who was seated by Arceus to their left and speaking comfortably to the new preceptor, his parents had no doubts that they wanted to be turned. They were determined never to leave him again. Julian sometimes worried that they were choosing eternity in this life because of the damage losing them the first time had caused him, but they assured him it wasn't so. Damon hadn't even had to tell his parents that who they chose, the same or different vampires as their masters or mistresses, bloodlines and houses, would all be very political. His parents had already figured that out from the get-go.
If we play Kingmaker,
His mother had said a few nights after they had been brought back.
we should...
I am king. There is no other. Damon had muttered quietly from the couch where he was sprawled out like a sleeping leopard. The four of them had had dinner in the palace, and now were just relaxing. His parents had dined royally. Damon had taken a few bites, but Julian had been unable to stomach anything but wine. Julian had chuckled and kissed Damon's nose.
I knew you were going to say that.
Your seer gift? Damon asked, scrunching his nose.
No. You are just a tad predictable about king stuff.
Julian told him. Damon pouted, which got him another kiss, but this one was on the lips. His mother smiled affectionately at them both.
I didn't mean that literally, Damon. We know you rule absolutely. But that also means that whatever Jack and I do will have a huge impact on the power and prestige of whichever bloodlines we choose.
Bloodlines? His father quirked his right eyebrow upwards. You're thinking that we should have different bloodlines? I was thinking we should have the same master.
Or mistress.
His mother grinned.
We really need to think about that too.
We do? His father asked.
Yes, we do.
His mother seated herself in one of the overly large chairs, curling one leg beneath her. She and his father were in their adventure clothes, khakis with many pockets and long-sleeved shirts that wicked away sweat. Every moment they hadn't been eating and sleeping they'd spent with Julian and Christian investigating the city. Julian knew she still wanted to check out some of Callie's catacombs that night.
I would hope you guys would be choosing someone or some ones you care about, that fits you, because you're going to be with them for a long time, and it's...
Julian grimaced. He still had trouble sometimes speaking to his parents as an adult.
Well, it's intimate. There, I said it, and I feel my cheeks burning.
You're adorable when you blush.
His mother beamed at him. Sometimes she forgot he was an adult too, but that was okay. He didn't mind. So there's always sex between the master and mistress and the child? His father looked a little uneasy at this. Julian glanced at Damon. He couldn't imagine not having sex with Damon. But then again, even if he didn't need the Vampire King's blood, he would want to sleep with him. Hearing that thought, Damon smiled at him, a smile that promised much sex later.
Does it always involve sex?
His mother repeated the question as the silence stretched. I'm guessing that's a yes. His father's mouth twisted as if he tasted something bitter. Julian knew that his parents were completely faithful to one another. Not that they didn't understand others who could have polyamorous relationships, but they had always found completeness in one another, a rare and wonderful thing. It was something he found with Damon. There can be a more paternal or maternal love in the relationship, Damon finally answered. But desire is part of what a vampire is.
I don't want to cheat on my husband,
His mother said flatly. I'm the same, his father answered and took his mother's hand in his. Then the choices you make about who will turn you become that much more delicate, Damon answered. But it is possible. It can be done. I know our marriage must seem so inconsequential to you after living so long, but not at all. Damon slid an arm around Julian's back. I went into a deep sleep because I could not bear to be without Julian. Remember? His parents gazed at Julian with such love that he blushed some more, squirmed, and lowered his head.
Yes, how could we forget that?
His mother murmured.
Whoever you guys pick, you should love,
Julian said.
We'll love them too, because they're worthy of it if they've gained your trust. The politics will take care of itself.
Damon kissed his shoulder.
I think Balthazar would choose us all. He would accept our desire to keep monogamous.
His mother said. His father, though, made a face. I don't know if I want to know what everyone is thinking. Imagine being able to shift into an animal form like those Wern. His mother lifted her eyebrows.
I wouldn't mind controlling the weather, or using telekinesis, or raising the dead.
Callie!
Julian was shocked. Considering everything that had happened to them at the hands of Callie, he wouldn't have thought they would consider that bloodline at all.
Caemorn actually said that your father and I have a natural affinity for it since we've gone over and come back.
His mother said with a shrug.
You guys are talking to Caemorn? I thought maybe...
Julian broke off. That we would stay way clear of the man who took our first lives? His father gave him a crooked smile.
But he gave us our second.
His mother pointed out.
And he's in your debt enough to give you a third and not demand anything in return.
Julian said with an understanding nod.
I feel connected to him. I don't know.
His mother scrubbed her face with both hands.
I truly don't know.
Do you, Dad?
Julian asked curiously. Yeah, in a way. I don't know either. It feels complicated. His father admitted. But I just don't know.
If you don't think of yourself as that much of a reader, I understand. I don't think of myself as a typical author either. I'm a storyteller, and my only goal is to entertain you with exciting tales of romance and adventure, just like Everdark. I write what I like to read, and that's why you get hot heroes and badass villains, magical powers, fantasy worlds, and, of course, cliffhangers. It's a lot of fun for everyone, and I hope you decide to join in. The link to sign up is in the notes.
You do not need to make the decision now, Damon said. There is plenty of time.
I wish we could turn you ourselves.
Julian said.
We know, kiddo.
His mother said fondly. She reached over and touched his knee.
But we need to be grateful for what we do have together, which is eternity. It's an amazing thing.
It was an amazing thing. Again, Julian felt a sense of unreality go through him as he spoke to them now.
So you know that Caemorn was able to track down all of the slices of himself this week?
Right, and he tagged them somehow?
His mother clarified.
Yeah, don't ask me how he did that. Christian understands because he helped. It's the equivalent of spraying someone's soul with neon paint that also glows in the dark. Anyways, they found where they all are.
Julian explained. And then Fiona and her gang are going to phase to those locations. His father asked.
Right,
Julian said with a nod.
Damon will open all the Everdark gates, then Fiona and the other Wyvern will phase in, grab each Callie slice, and phase here to this room.
What about the slice that inhabited Roan Tithe?
His mother asked. His parents had already gotten all the information they hadn't been privy to as prisoners of Artemis Callie from their talks with Caemorn, evidently.
Where is that part of Callie?
Julian knew that this had worried Balthazar a lot.
It returned to one of the others and was reincorporated. He was the last one that Caemorn located. Because two of them had combined, he was more powerful and harder to find than the others.
I see.
His mother's expression hardened.
Artemis Callie was powerful enough on his own.
And insane. His father's jaw was set. This Roan Tithe tortured Balthazar and everyone else in his house. I heard from Christian. I can't believe he'll go down without a fight.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and I'm sure you're right.
Julian agreed.
How will Balthazar be able to handle all of them at once?
His mother asked. In a way, he will not be. Damon answered. Caemorn is Callie's core. The others are like shadows of him. Iros was always Callie's equal when Callie was whole. Without being whole, Iros will be able to handle the slices.
But he had trouble with Artemis Callie and the other slice.
Julian pointed out slowly. Damon squeezed his hand. Only because he had not quite yet accepted who he is. Really? His father cracked a smile. Balthazar seems quite comfortable with his palace and his people. Yes. Damon acquiesced with a smile.
He does love his luxuries, but Roan, Callie, has made him doubt himself.
Taking in Balthazar's pacing, I fear that's still the case.
His mother frowned.
It will work.
Seer's voice rose up, answering Balthazar's repeated question, bringing him back to the present moment.
So, when the Callie slices are here, what then, exactly?
His father asked.
Balthazar will literally change their minds. Basically, he will make the Slice's minds mirror Caemorn's. They will all be in agreement.
Julian finished.
That'll allow Caemorn to integrate them seamlessly.
It's a clever plan,
his father said.
But not an easy one.
His mother pointed out.
Nothing worthwhile ever is,
Damon said. Seer stiffened slightly and suddenly turned towards them.
King Daemon, it is time.
Balthazar froze. Christian kissed him and took a few steps away to stand by Arceus and his parents. Christian met Julian's gaze. He felt the touch of his best friend's mind.
Moonfall. Remember Moonfall?
Christian sent.
Caemorn was fully Callie then. This will work.
Yes, it'll work. It will.
Julian agreed, even as he tightened his grip on Damon's hand. Julian's gaze slid to Caemorn. He had turned towards them. His silver eyes were fixed on Damon. Damon nodded. His red eyes went unfocused as he stared straight ahead.
It is done. All gates into the Everdark are open. Fiona, it is time.
The last was sent mentally to Fiona, who, along with her people, were already on Earth.
We are linked. My power linked to theirs will get them all through. Now.
Fiona answered.
Incoming?
Caemorn murmured, as the first Wyvern vampire phased the first Callie Slice into the room. The Callie Slice was a Wyvern vampire who immediately burst into a cauldron of bats that proceeded to fly in every direction. Balthazar let out a laugh.
Oh, come on. This just makes you easier to control.
Balthazar snorted.
Iros?
Caemorn stated dryly. Balthazar lifted up his hands. Sorry. I've just worked myself up into a lather here, and it's bats. With a snap of his fingers, all the bats fell to the ground as if a gigantic hand had slapped them out of the air. Now, back to one form. The female Wyvern vampire appeared. And now you're happy to be here. This is what you've planned all along. The female Wyvern's eyes were unfocused, but then her gaze snapped to Caemorn. She smiled broadly.
We've done it. Home,
she said as she scrambled to her feet. She reached for Caemorn. A small, sad smile graced Caemorn's handsome visage.
Yes.
Caemorn said.
Home.
And she collapsed again. Julian leaned forward. He had not exactly seen the transfer of the soul from her body to Caemorn's, but maybe he had.
Amazing,
his mother said. And terrible, his father added in a whisper. More Callie Slices appeared then, fast and thick. The skies above Nightvarlen crackled with terrible storms as several Horus vampires were teleported in. Lightning ripped the skies apart, thunder boomed, but the clouds hardly had time to form before Balthazar had them down on the ground and back up again with bright, smiling faces before they collapsed once more. Mirror vampires tried to fade into the crowd, taking on the faces of their Wyvern captors or Balthazar or Caemorn, and it was when they did this last one that Balthazar would freeze them, somehow wearing Caemorn's face as they willingly gave themselves over to Caemorn seemed appropriate. The siren vampires screeched, which had Julian grimacing and covering his ears, but their voices were cut off in mid-cry. One reached up to his throat as he realized he had lost his weapon and glared at Balthazar. Balthazar actually laughed. This is rather fun. Balthazar swelled with pride.
Do not become cocky, Iros.
Caemorn reminded him.
Even a slice of me is dangerous.
Yes, I know. But it is fun, Balthazar insisted. The Asher vampires tried to toss people around to use as missiles. Arceus was lifted from his feet. He called out to Balthazar for
A little help.
Oh, you big baby. You always wanted to fly. Balthazar laughed, but Arceus was gently placed back upon his feet. The Helm vampires tried to play hide and seek by turning invisible. But while humans might not be able to see them, other vampires easily could, simply by listening for heart, breath, and the faintest scrape of feet. The wyvern vampire Callie Slices appeared to be the hardest, as they teleported away as soon as they were teleported in. The wyvern vampires on their side went after them and brought them back again. They popped in and out of existence. It took Balthazar a bunch of times before he could grab them mentally and keep them pinned in Nightvallen like butterflies to a board. With every transfer, Caemorn's sadness seemed to drop away. Julian could feel what he felt. He leaned forward on the throne as if getting physically closer to Caemorn would give him more insight. The Callie Slicers were happy to return to their core. Caemorn felt that happiness. It did not feel fake, but true. They had been living terrible existences, plagued by madness, anguished by insane thoughts, overwhelmed by out-of-control emotions. Balthazar freed them of such pains, and he brought them peace. Finally, there were no more Callie Slices being brought in. Instead, the throne room was littered with empty vampires.
Something's wrong.
Julian realized before Caemorn spoke, confirming it.
We are missing one.
Caemorn stated.
Fiona's not here.
Arceus stated.
She was going after...
Roan. Balthazar's hands fisted at his sides. Roan has her. Everyone looked at Seer. She didn't look alarmed.
It will all work out.
But she didn't say how it would. Julian realized. Join us next time for episode 143, Edge.
What else do you get as a member of wraithrain.com besides the unedited audio versions of Everdark, Dragon's Reign, and the sexy times for Empire of Stars? I write a lot of stories. Far more than Dragon's Reign and Everdark. Everdark is just one of my gay, romantic, epic-length adventures. Since 2010, I've written long gay romance web novels with hot heroes falling in love with each other, whether it's honorable elven warriors, fierce dragon shifters, sensual mermen, fallen angels and demons, and reincarnated immortal vampires. When you join, you can read all of these on my serial membership site. The completed stories are there in full for you to read as fast as you want, and the ongoing stories get 3 chapters every week, so I can torture you with cliffhangers. I mean, entertain you, not torture. Cat, who wrote this script? But don't worry, you can tell me exactly what you think of that in the comments at the end of every chapter. As a member, you can be in my own personal peanut gallery. There's also manga. My first foray into romance was actually yaoi manga, and since the very beginning, I've collaborated with artists to create both Western and Asian graphic novels that are posted 1 page at a time in the members-only area. Even if you're not a manga person per se, when you're a member, you get them free. So why not check out the amazing detailed work of our artists while waiting for me to post the next chapter? If this sounds interesting to you, try us out for a month. The link to sign up is in the notes. The most you'll pay is $9.95 a month, and you'll be directly supporting us, real people, not big corporations like Amazon or Netflix, not content created with AI. Wraith Rain is a small team of actual humans doing the best we can to transport you with romantic action and adventure stories. We really thank you for your support.
Last on Everdark. The plan to reintegrate Callie went very well, until they all realized that one of the Callie Slicers was not in the room, nor was Fiona. Roan Tithe has taken Fiona captive. Episode 143, Edge. Roan. Balthazar said his master's name softly, but it still had a bitter taste. It would be him. Of course it would be him.
Fiona, Callie has got her, Balthazar.
Arceus said, and his lips writhed back from his teeth, the old berserker rage coming to the front at the danger to his love.
We don't know that, do we?
Christian asked, his gaze snapping between Arceus and Balthazar.
Maybe she's just having problems locating him.
Only one way to find out, Balthazar said. He closed his eyes and concentrated on Fiona's mind. She wasn't just not in Nightviolin, she also wasn't on Earth, but in another part of the Everdark entirely, so reaching her would be difficult. His brain wanted to say that this was too much distance, that it would be impossible to reach her when she was so very far away. But there really was no physical distance at all between one mind and another. He thought of the click and clack of the beads in Fiona's hair. He imagined her turning her head to look at him and how the beads would click and clack. He pictured it again and again. The sounds filled his ears. Finally, he saw her silver eyes. He pictured them meeting his own. Her head turned, the click and clack. Her eyes would fix on him. Her lips would then form the location of where she was and if she was in danger. Head turned, click, clack. Silver eyes, lips moving. Balthazar's eyelids flew open. Destiny. Balthazar breathed. Callie has her in destiny.
The Iros city in the Everdark,
Caemorn stated, informing those there that didn't know. The hair on the back of Balthazar's neck lifted. He thought of the arrogance of naming his own city Destiny, and yet here they were, in the endgame, and Destiny was calling them. Could it really have ended any other way?
But any gate to destiny has been lost since the war.
Arceus cried, his eyes sparking.
How did Callie get there?
It was not lost to the immortals, Arceus, only to vampires who were not born at that time.
Sia reminded him, but then her head turned towards Balthazar.
At least, not those whose minds were fully their own, with memories intact.
How is he keeping her there?
Julian asked, eyes shadowed.
She should just be able to teleport away from him, shouldn't she?
This final form is another Iros vampire, Balthazar said as he felt the brief touch of Roan, Callie's mind. It was as familiar to him as his own. He suddenly swallowed metallic, tasting saliva.
Who did Callie take over?
Arceus looked ready to chew through rocks.
I can't believe that we wouldn't know them, do we?
Balthazar gave a sharp laugh. No one we know, Arceus. No one who has ever stood out. No one of any importance, at least not to my mind. The Callie Slicer's final form was that of a man in his late 20s or early 30s. He had mousy brown hair and a rather pallid complexion with a spray of freckles across his nose. He was only 5'7" in height, with a narrow body that bent forward as if he needed to peer ahead to ascertain that every step he took was safe. He was the type that shrank away from loud voices and kept to himself on the edge of parties. He watched and chewed his fingernails to the quick. He was unremarkable, completely forgettable, but that was only on the surface.
Well, he's bloody important now that he has Fiona.
Arceus cried.
It's not your fault that you didn't know, Balthazar, who he really was.
Christian told him, intuiting the blame he was placing upon himself. I don't know him at all, my darling. Yet I should have. He passed me by many times. I vaguely remember his face, but I thought him to be of no consequence. In my great wisdom, I saw only what he wanted me to see, Balthazar said bitterly. All this time, Roan was still alive. Roan was Callie, my bastard maker, and I didn't know it all. All this power, and yet none at all. He stared down at his hands that he lifted up before them. He had been having fun taking down the Callie Slices. He had actually thought himself clever and powerful. Actually Iros again. And now, am I the master or the slave? Damon should do this. I should step back. Ask Damon to take charge. I can't do this. Arceus's hands were suddenly grabbing his shoulders and shaking him.
Balthazar, Fiona needs you.
He focused on his friend.
You beat him before when you were barely a babe out of the woods. You can do it again.
Could he? Or would he fail again, like he had so many times before? Balthazar. Damon's voice was soft, but it had the effect of a whip crack in his ears. The Vampire King was dressed all in black, except for his beloved long fur coat. He stood up. His imposing frame alone would have made him unforgettable. He did not hide who or what he was. He was the king. He spoke, and Balthazar acted. You are Iros, Balthazar, Damon said in that same soft, unhurried tone that yet seared the ideas into his mind. Destiny
is your city. You need to take it back and finally assume the mantle of leadership of your bloodline.
You handled over half a dozen of me at once, Balthazar.
Caemorn reminded him.
You can handle this last remaining part. Roan Callie just wants you to believe you can't, but objective reality says otherwise.
He looked at Caemorn. As he had absorbed more of himself, Caemorn had become different. Not crazy or murderous or sociopathic. Well, not more than he already had been. Quieter, though. More thoughtful. A little more remote. And Balthazar knew that was where Caemorn liked to be, because there was less noise and less chance for rejection in this distance. But he spoke up now, in a way denigrating his own power, which cost him to say. I thought I handled him before, but I was wrong, Balthazar said. And I only did it by the skin of my teeth.
No, you did not.
Caemorn's lips formed a small smile.
Surely you understood why what you did was so very frightening for all the older vampires.
Balthazar frowned. I killed my master.
With ease.
Caemorn added.
It was the last part that gave me the leverage over them I needed to exile you. Roan was no one's favourite, Balthazar. He was almost universally loathed. Having you kill him was a good thing all around.
Can't let fledglings go killing masters and all that, though, Balthazar said with faux amusement.
Maybe, maybe not. But the way I was able to move them to act so swiftly, instead of sweeping it under the rug, was that you shouldn't have been able to do what you did as easily as you did it.
Caemorn told him.
You were too strong too soon. I told them that you would rule them in no time at all if they weren't careful. And as always, I was right.
Balthazar snorted. As always.
Yes, as always.
Caemorn inclined his head.
And you, as always, will defeat me.
Balthazar stared at him. He couldn't mean that. Caemorn did not look away. He did mean that.
I am more powerful than you, Balthazar,
Caemorn said with no false modesty.
But you always defeat me because you understand me better than I do myself. And no matter how much I know about you, you are still a mystery to me at your core. That is just as true, if not truer, for Roan Callie.
Click, clack. Silver eyes locking on Balthazar's. Fiona mouthing the word, help, destiny, help. No more delay. No more hesitation. He had to do something here. Damon, can you open a gate to destiny? Balthazar asked. Even before he had finished the sentence, a gate blazed, unanchored to anything but the floor. A blazing portal. That's new, Balthazar said as he tilted his head towards the gate. You needed Fiona and the crew to go to Earth to access the other parts of the Everdark. Life is about change, Damon said with a smile. Continual change. Balthazar could see destiny through the gate, and he froze. Time stood still, then reversed. Like lasting, solace, and Nightvallen, destiny was made of that lovely, soft, glowing white stone. The city curved around a silvery lake that reflected the twin moons above. Graceful towers speared the heavens. Each was lit with an eternal flame, blue-white and lovely, the light of the mind, Balthazar found himself saying. Christian looped his arm through Balthazar's.
The flame in that tower is a different color than the rest.
Instead of the blue-white flames like in the other towers, this central tower had a purplish-black flame that was almost invisible against the night sky.
The remaining part of me is there with Fiona,
Caemorn said as he stepped to the other side of Balthazar. Damon offered his arm to Julian, who jumped up from his throne. Sophia and Sia also rose up. Arceus was practically charging towards the gate, but stopped just short of going through it. Are you all coming? Balthazar asked. Of course, Damon said.
We need to see the end. I've been picturing it for so very long.
Sia touched the clean silk bandage that covered her missing eyes. Go ahead, Balthazar. We will follow, Damon told him.
We're almost to the end of Everdark. To think we posted episode 1 in the summer of 2022, and while we knew it would be about 2.5 years until it was done, We couldn't really imagine the journey or the friends we'd make along the way. Now it's 2025, and we're preparing for Everdark Academy as our next podcast. Since Spotify now allows comments, tell us, at either YouTube or Spotify, about when you found Everdark, what you expected when you first started listening to it, and what your own Everdark journey has been like.
Balthazar tightened his hold on Christian. He met his fledgling's gaze. Christian nodded, and faith in him flowed over their bond. Balthazar strode forward with Christian and Camorn, followed briskly by Arceus. The moment he stepped foot in destiny, Balthazar drew in a deep breath as if he finally could. Snow drifted down from the sky, and his breath frosted the clear air.
Beautiful,
Christian murmured as he looked up at Destiny's towers. It will be even more so when I get that spider out of my attic, Balthazar said, glaring at the central tower with the purple flame. There were two figures up there, Roan Callie and Fiona. The tower was over 100 feet tall. It was going to be a little anticlimactic if they had to climb up all the stairs, or even if they jumped their way up. He should have asked one of the wyvern vampires to come right with them, and between one moment and the next, they were at the top of the tower. Thank you, King Damon, Balthazar said. Thank Julian. He was the one who did it. I wanted to see if he could teleport others without touching them, Damon said. You've got a lot of confidence in him, Balthazar laughed. I do, as I do in you, Damon answered. Aren't you joining us? Balthazar asked, as he realized that neither Damon or Julian were up on the tower with him, Christian, Camorn, and Arceus. Don't wait on us. We're taking our time, Damon told him.
Fiona! Let her go, Roan!
Arceus roared and made to reach for an axe that wasn't there. He growled in fury when his hand came back empty. He was screaming at Roan Callie, who had Fiona in front of him, one arm around her neck, even though he had her mind. Using physical strength showed a lack of confidence. Weakness, actually. Balthazar found himself smiling, at least until he saw the look of muted rage and fear and pain on Fiona's face. Sweat trailed down from her hairline as she struggled mentally to free herself. Wyvern was a creature of the air. Holding her in one place like this was wrong. Arceus balled his massive hands into piled driver-sized fists and rushed Roan Callie. He used his mental abilities as a shield that would knock Roan Callie back. Arceus, no! Balthazar cried. Attacking Roan Callie when he had such a hold of Fiona's mind could hurt her. Roan Callie could snap her sanity, but Arceus was beyond reason seeing his lover in the hands of their monstrous master. But Roan Callie didn't harm Fiona. He didn't have to. With a dry laugh, Roan Callie sent a wave of mental control at Arceus. The mental shield knocked most of it to the side, but not all. Arceus veered just slightly off course. A wobble, just a little wobble, but it was enough. Arceus let out a yell of rage as he barreled right past Roan Callie and Fiona. He would have kept going, but for Balthazar returning control to him at the last moment. As it was, Arceus was able to stop his forward momentum, but he teetered on the edge of the tower. Christian moved like lightning and grabbed the back of Arceus's robes, pulling him firmly back onto the stone tower. That's my grandchild, yes? Roan Callie asked about Christian. Balthazar felt Camorn watching to make sure that both Arceus and Christian were all right. They were. He'd already confirmed that, or he would have acted himself. Balthazar realized with a sense of amusement and warmth that Camorn was as protective of Christian as he was. Roan Callie continued when he said nothing. A speaker to the dead. They've always been mine. The special ones like that. Gods, even your voice is forgettable, Balthazar said with a sigh, wanting to stop him from speaking about Christian. The next section of the podcast has been abridged. I can smell his mind. It's like something rotting under old leaves, Balthazar realized. And you still need others' help to come up against me? Roan Callie sneered, the indifference like a match to gasoline. He's hotter than usual, out of control, knows the game's up, Balthazar thought. Actually, not really, Balthazar said with a yawn. Camorn is here. Oh, wait, I mean, Callie is here to absorb you, which you will eagerly accept in a moment. Arceus and Christian are here for the show. And Damon and Julian are just strolling around looking at the city. You don't even want them coming up here. Roan Callie's eyes narrowed and his jaw clenched. Fiona suddenly let out a cry of pain. Arceus's head lifted up like a maddened bull again. Christian was trying to calm him.
Balthazar, you can do this.
Christian told him.
The next section of the podcast has been abridged.
With horror, he saw Christian react to his memories. Curl forward, clutch his chest. Wretch. Arceus was frantically holding Christian now, but Christian was screaming, thrashing. Caemorn shot him a look as if to say,
Fix this, Balthazar. What are you allowing to happen?
What was he allowing to happen? Why couldn't he stop it? Why had he allowed Christian to see that, experience that? He should have kept Christian away from here. Arceus, too. They weren't safe. It wasn't safe. Be calm. Damon's voice whispered through his mind. Calm. That meant first things first. That meant thinking instead of feeling. Calm. Balthazar winnowed the connection between them and pushed the memories back into the deep, dark hole they belonged in. Christian collapsed against Arceus. Balthazar felt a trickle of sweat run down his temple. He had hurt Christian. His foolishness. He had to put a stop to this now. But getting a hold of Roan Callie's mind was much harder than the others. The shield he was using to protect himself from Balthazar was smooth as a glass dome. But there would be an edge. The tiniest edge, but it would be there. Or what about those times I had you thinking that I'd peeled every inch of your skin off? Roan Callie continued with an almost fiendish glee. Balthazar sought for that edge, that tiny edge, but everything was smooth and his mind slipped over that barrier. His nostrils flared. More sweat poured down his face as the memories rose in him, distracting him, battering against him.
The next section of the podcast has been abridged.
Fiona! God, stop it, Roan! Stop it!
Arceus screamed, even as he was as pale as milk and couldn't leave Christian.
Balthazar?
Caemorn's use of his name was strong and insistent.
What are you doing?
Don't distract me, Balthazar hissed.
Stop letting him play with you.
Caemorn stated.
You are not his child. He is not your master.
But...
No, Balthazar, no buts. You are Iros, the great Iros. Make him know it.
Caemorn insisted.
I can't reach his soul until you do this.
At that same moment, he felt Christian reaching for him, loving him, wanting to give him strength, even as the young man was still trembling from the experience of a few memories. Memories. Roan is doing this, bringing them up, making them real again. Except they weren't real then, and they certainly aren't now. Balthazar's eyes narrowed. I have to make him angry, make him lose control to find that edge. Did you know that Caemorn brought the Harrows back? Balthazar asked, grinning. It was quite a thing, wasn't it? He asked this of Caemorn. Caemorn grunted and nodded.
The power of the Callie Palace is legendary, so that's...
They're going to become vampires. In fact, they're thinking of asking Caemorn here to be their master, Balthazar said. Caemorn's head snapped towards him, unable to hide his shock. Roan Callie's forehead furrowed.
But we killed them. We kept them prisoner.
But they understand that you and Artemis aren't really Callie. Caemorn is Callie, the real Callie, the core of Callie, Balthazar said. And they like him, because he's nothing like you. That's not true. I am the true Callie, not that neutered, pathetic wet wipe, Roan Callie yelled. His face grew redder with every word. Wet wipe? You mean like a moist towelette? Balthazar repeated and lifted his eyebrows as he gave Caemorn a grin. I really don't think that King Damon would love a wet wipe. What? Love? Oh, yeah. And Caemorn is Prince Julian's particular friend. Balthazar went on. Both of them hugged him. Hugged. Can you believe it? I'm sure you can't. Nobody hugs you. Nobody ever would. I'll hug you. Bring you close and rip out your goddamn throat, Balthazar! Roan Callie yelled. And in that moment, When he switched his full attack from Fiona directly at him, Balthazar felt the edge. He smiled as he slipped underneath it and ripped it off. Roan Cally's eyes widened as he felt his mistake. He sent intimate memories of violence at Balthazar. Not the pain, but the way that Balthazar had begged Roan Cally to love him, to reveal that he still needed and wanted his love despite everything. Rage suffused every ounce of Balthazar's being as he remembered being rebuffed again and again and again until he was bleeding out, his heart ripped out. The remains of it were in between Roan Cally's teeth. No more. I am Iros! There was a visible wave of power that came off of him and struck Roan Cally. The creature was thrown back from Fiona and slammed against the ground. He skidded a few feet before going still. He was completely unconscious. Fiona gasped and brought her hands up to her throat.
It's over? Yes, it's over.
Fiona got out. Arceus and Christian hobbled over to her. Balthazar pulled Christian into his arms. He kissed Christian fiercely. I'm sorry, Christian. I didn't mean to let you experience that.
Shh, it's all right. You were amazing. You stopped him. He did that to you over and over, and you were able to stop him.
Christian murmured against his throat.
You ended it.
He did more than that.
Arceus grinned. He and Fiona were embracing.
Can you feel it? This whole place is saying hello to us. Hello to you, Balthazar. Oh, I'm sorry. Iros?
Yes. I am an immortal. I am the great and powerful Iros. Balthazar chuckled weakly. Do not look at that man behind the curtain. Just gaze upon my heavenly glory. Caemorn stood over the unconscious Roan Cally.
We should finish this before he wakes again.
It wouldn't matter if he did, Balthazar said. The connection between him and I, well, it's gone. Caemorn nodded.
Good. I hope you forget it. All of it.
Balthazar kissed Christian's temple. He hesitated before saying, Do you really want this part back, Caemorn? Caemorn looked up at him.
You are worried that this part of me returning will make me want to do those things to you?
A little. I'd rather you didn't want to.
I won't. But this darkness is a part of me.
Caemorn told him.
But I promise you, it will never touch you or Christian again.
Balthazar slowly nodded. He felt Christian agree with his decision. All right, I believe you. I trust you, Balthazar said. Let's end this. Join us next time for episode 144, Whole.
There are a lot of ways to make money, but nobody gets into writing to strike it rich. I started Wraith Rain because nobody was publishing the kinds of stories I most wanted to read. So I decided to do it myself. What I didn't expect about this style of self-publishing was how I'd get to know so many of my readers and subscribers as people. If I started out today, I'd probably just rely on Amazon to sell my books. But that wasn't a real option in 2010. I'm so glad it wasn't. This way, I've created a real person-to-person business, just like an old school store in a small town where everybody knows everybody. Fans have made friends with each other. Early readers who were once college students now have families of their own. It's incredible that so many people have been a part of my life for so long. I hope you'll stay until the end of Everdark and beyond.
Last on Everdark, Balthazar faces off against Roan Cally in order to save Fiona and end the reign of terror that the Cally Slicers have wrought. Now we see the aftermath from Christian's perspective. Episode 144, Whole. Before Balthazar could control Roan Cally and rewire him to join Caemorn, Julian and Damon appeared just a few feet from all of them, using the Wyvern power to teleport from the lake to the tower in less than a second. Christian wondered if Damon had Julian teleport them like he'd made Christian's best friend do for them.
Julian would not have been so useless against Roan Cally. He's gotten so strong already.
Christian thought, angry at himself for not protecting Balthazar from the toxic memories that Roan Cally had been using against him. Instead, falling prey to them himself, distracting Balthazar when he needed to be focused.
If Camorn had not been there to anchor Balthazar, things might have gone differently.
Julian's head snapped towards Christian, and his best friend rushed over to him. Julian didn't wait for Balthazar to release Christian to take him into his arms, but just hugged them both with evident relief.
Julian! Damon!
Christian answered back, with more emotion than he meant to let on. But he still felt a little fragile after the assault of memories and wanted these two people who exuded such strength and purpose.
Christian, Balthazar, Damon said softly and with more than a little affection.
Damon lightly pressed a hand on his and Balthazar's shoulders before moving on to Arceus, Fiona, and Camorn to greet them as well with that silent but powerful communication. Christian immediately felt Balthazar relax. He did as well. The Vampire King's powerful personality surrounded them all and re-established a feeling of rightness and order. Things had only seemed out of control and terrible, but now everything was as it should be. They'd made it through to the other side. The flames were still purple. Christian frowned at that, but Julian's voice drew his gaze away from the fire.
Are you guys okay? Oh my God, I was so worried. Damon said it would be all right, and we had to stay back, but...
Julian pulled back from the hug and cupped both Christian and Balthazar's faces.
I felt this pain. What happened?
Christian opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The pain had been something he would never be able to forget. Balthazar, of course, didn't wish to remember it. He wanted it to remain in the past. Christian could feel his master shoving those memories into a dark hole, wanting to be in the moment and to look forward to the future. It's all right, Julian. We've vanquished him. Look, see? Balthazar gestured towards Roan Calli's unconscious body. I took him out, Damon. I know you're not surprised, but...
I see, Iros, and no, I am not surprised. I know your great strength, even if you are not so sure of it.
Damon answered with a nod and smile. Christian met the Vampire King's eyes, and he saw that Julian hadn't been the only one to experience Balthazar's pain that wasn't on the tower. Despite the Vampire King's calming words, Damon's expression was haunted for a moment. Christian was sure he was mentally jotting down yet one more thing that his long sleep had allowed to happen. What had it cost him to keep Julian and himself away while this fight took place?
He wants to protect us, to shelter us, but if he does, then the damage can't be repaired.
Christian realized.
Facing Roan was something that Balthazar needed to do without Damon's help, and Camorn had to see it too.
Christian watched from the safety and security of Balthazar and Julian's arms as Camorn got down on his haunches above Roan Calli. Damon had checked in with Arceus and Fiona before he came up behind Camorn. He did not touch the Calli vampire, but the sympathy on his face showed he wished to comfort Camorn. But would Camorn allow it? From the tension in his shoulders, the stiff way he moved, the deliberate not meeting of any of their eyes told Christian that Camorn was suffering, and when he suffered, he drew inwards. What Christian had seen and experienced from Balthazar's mind had shown him that Roan Calli was more than dangerous. He had done unspeakable things to Balthazar and the others. Previously, Christian had no idea how bad it had truly been, and he was certain that Balthazar would never have shared that with him or anyone. But now, all on this rooftop had a very good idea of why Balthazar had taken the extraordinary step to kill Roan Calli. And now, he was being asked to repair him and send him into Camorn, his good friend. Camorn's shoulders drew forward, as if he were beetling in on himself the longer he touched Roan Calli. Christian could feel the toxicity of the Calli slice that resided in that body. It was so much worse than all the others.
Are you sure you want to do this, Camorn? Take Roan back inside of you?
Christian asked, using the name Roan, and not adding the hyphenate. Roan was not Calli, was certainly not Camorn. Time had twisted Roan into something else.
It is a part of me, Christian.
Camorn disputed those thoughts, gently but firmly.
Rowan Calli's acts are ones I must atone for, because it was a part of me that did these things to Balthazar and the rest of his house. How could I have been so blind not to see what was going on, not to sense myself in this?
There's darkness in everyone, Camorn. But to suggest that if you pluck that part from anyone, set it loose and made it insane, that it is the same as them is simply wrong.
Christian mentally shook himself.
I'm sorry, but no. These aren't your acts, and you aren't responsible for them. Balthazar would tell you that himself if he was asked.
Balthazar should not give me forgiveness. He has suffered enough.
Caemorn said firmly.
Do not ask him.
Christian wanted to object, but Caemorn sent him a firm no. If Christian respected him and loved him, he would not do this. The love part Caemorn hadn't intended to reveal, but it was there. He tensed as if waiting for Christian to tell him that love for something like him was impossible.
That's not true, Caemorn.
Christian told him.
Surely you can feel how much the people here love you. Damon is right there, right behind you.
Caemorn shrank down more. Julian was looking between Christian and Caemorn. He knew that they were talking, but not about what.
The only truly safe place for this creature to be is back inside me.
Caemorn answered.
It will never get out again. It will never be free. That I can assure both you and Balthazar.
And Christian felt how much the Cali vampire meant this. Caemorn would ensure that he never allowed this aspect of himself to affect anyone again. Caemorn rolled Roan Cali over. He was still unconscious, so deeply away from the world that he didn't even moan. I think I may have hit him a little hard, Balthazar said as he soothed himself and Christian by caressing Christian's back with one hand.
It will take time for this form to recover, but you did not give him a second death.
Caemorn assured him.
You did, however, stun both body and soul. Are you certain you are able to convince this part of me that it wants to merge, or must you wait until consciousness returns?
Caemorn, you disappoint me. Do you really think mere unconsciousness can stop me? Balthazar harumphed. But Christian felt his master's unwillingness to touch Roan Cali's mind. He was holding back, as if it was something disgusting and rotting that he did not want to touch.
You can do this, Balthazar,
Arceus said, as he kept his hold on Fiona. She looked weakened, but determined as she answered,
You're stronger than him by a long shot, Balthazar. I don't know how you endured, survived those kinds of attacks for as long as you did. I wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes longer, and you lived through them for decades with your sanity intact.
She shook her head and gritted her teeth. Her fangs were out.
I should have helped you against him.
He had a hold on your mind. His claws were literally in your soul. You can't expect yourself to have fought that, Balthazar assured her. But she shook her head again.
I mean before. When you killed this bastard the first time, every single one of us should have been on your side. What he's done is monstrous.
Caemorn flinched just a little, but covered up the movement, and Christian's empathy for him grew. Roan had been far more twisted than the others, it seemed. All the Cali slicers had gone insane. Christian could feel that coming off of them like waves of putrescence. But Roan had a special place in the ranks of madness. You couldn't have known that before, Balthazar said softly. I didn't want anyone to know what he was doing. I felt ashamed that my own master did that to me. It made me feel unworthy, as if I had done something, that I was someone that made me undeserving of a loving master. And because of what that bond does to us, I could not help but love him, no matter what he did to me or others. Christian held on to Balthazar so tightly. He sent his love to his master with as much intent as he had withheld it at the very beginning of their relationship. And he realized then that there was a part of Balthazar who had not accepted Christian could love him. A hard, dark nugget of self-doubt that was iced over. It thawed, though it did not completely go away. It would take time and care to make that happen.
I'm sorry, Balthazar.
Caemorn spoke quietly. Why? It wasn't you who did it. I mean, it was you, but not you. Balthazar grimaced as words failed him, which so very rarely happened.
But it was me. This is a part of me. The jealous part that always wanted to hurt you for Damon caring for you more. Those things you felt because of Rowan, I was the one that wanted you to feel them.
Caemorn told him with a stiff back.
to make you feel insignificant and small and unworthy of Damon's love and attention. And in my arrogant belief that I could split myself into parts to experience more of the world, I unleashed all of this on you and everyone else.
Because the audio for Everdark Academy is going to take much longer than the ebook, I decided to release the ebook early. Book 1 of Everdark Academy is out on Amazon and in our own shop. The benefit of Amazon is that it's right there in your Kindle library. The benefit of buying from our shop is that we'll be able to contact you when the next book is out. Amazon may or may not tell you. I'll put the link to both in the notes.
Hallie, Damon said quietly, and Caemorn's eyes shut for a moment as if hearing his name were a blessing and curse combined coming from the Vampire King's lips. You have always sought to touch the stars, and in doing so you fell from heights greater than most have ever dreamed existed. Damon laid a hand on Caemorn's shoulder. The tension in that long, lean body relaxed slightly, and his eyes opened.
My reach exceeded my grasp.
Caemorn reminded him.
I will not make the same mistake again.
No, you will make other mistakes, as will we all, Damon told him. And that is not a bad thing. We need those around us who will call us on our terrible ideas. The Vampire King smiled at Julian as if recalling a conversation they'd had about just this. His best friend went over to the Vampire King and tucked himself against Damon's side. I allowed you to be on your own too much. I won't again. You will be with friends, and know you are loved just as much.
People should be around me to make sure that I do not do anything foolish, or that if I do, that I can be stopped before it can get so far.
Caemorn stood up, still not looking at anyone.
Caemorn,
Julian said, and lightly touched the Callie vampire's upper arm.
when Christian and I saw you in Moonfall, you were yourself. You don't turn into a monster because you reabsorb this part of yourself. You're at peace.
Caemorn had turned his head to the side to listen to Julian, but he did not respond to those kindly meant and very earnest words. Instead, he simply said,
Please finish this now, Balthazar. I do not want this part of myself unbound.
Balthazar, frowning, nodded and walked over to the prone body. He held tightly onto Christian's left hand. He did not need to be closer to Roan to touch his mind, but Christian felt that he wanted to see the monster one last time before he banished it for good. I want you to stay with us again tonight, Caemorn, Balthazar said. Actually, I'd like you to simply stay in the Eiros Palace and let Lizette handle all the idiots that set off traps in the Callie Palace. Less annoyance for you.
You do not need to say that, Balthazar. I understand why you would both want and not want me anywhere but where you can see me,
Caemorn answered. Oh, you bloody idiot! Balthazar snapped. He was glaring at Caemorn. How can someone so smart be so stupid? Caemorn's eyes widened a fraction.
I do not see how I am being stupid.
Of course you don't. Because the one area where you are completely blind and idiotic is about yourself. Balthazar pinched the top of his nose.
You have seen what I am capable of. You experienced it firsthand with my torturing of you and
No. Balthazar lifted up a hand. No, no, no. That's not how this is going to go.
And how is it supposed to go?
Caemorn lifted an expressive eyebrow. Balthazar lowered his hand. If I thought for 1 second that's what's in here, he toed the unconscious Roan. Was in here. He poked Caemorn's chest. Do you think I would simply let your mind be free? Caemorn blinked. Balthazar let out a low laugh. Now he gets it. Caemorn, you can make dead animals love you and bring back the Harrows, because your skill at what you can do is second to none. But you forget that the rest of us lowly immortals are just as good at what we do. Caemorn frowned.
I admitted that you were stronger than me.
We're pretty evenly matched, but you have some ultra-cool powers, but I am a master of the mind, Balthazar told him. I know what's in your head, your heart, and your soul. This here Again he towed the unconscious roan. Yes, it's that nasty part of you distilled and twisted so tight as to be unrecognizable because it isn't the core of you. Trust me when I tell you that I know you now. I know all the parts of you intimately. Caemorn's eyebrows went up.
Intimately?
Yes, Caemorn. In order to turn things all around in your head, I have to know you really damned well, Balthazar explained. Every slice I got my hands on made me know you better. So when I clean out this one of the filth that's got on it and return it to you, nothing is going to change for you. Because the core of you, the whole of you, is not Roan. Caemorn looked down at Roan.
You're certain?
Yes, because like I said, if it was, I would change it, Balthazar said.
You can do that?
Another lifted eyebrow. Can you make a skeleton dance a jig? Balthazar challenged.
Of course, that is simple.
Exactly. It's simple. Same for me if I wanted you to be different. But I don't, Balthazar said. As annoying and irritating and—
Do go on,
Caemorn remarked dryly. Intelligent and funny and compassionate and ruthless and— oh, the list goes on. The truth is that I like and respect you. But even if I didn't, what and who you are isn't Roan, Balthazar told him.
Hear, hear!
Arceus cheered.
Well said, Balthazar.
Fiona added.
Totally true.
Julian agreed.
Yes, most definitely.
Christian said.
Kali, you need to try and trust what Eiros is telling you. He would have no reason to lie to you. Quite the opposite.
Damon remarked simply.
I see.
Caemorn said with a faint smile on his lips. Oh, and by the way, when you're fully integrated, you owe me, Master, Balthazar said with a grin as he tightened his hold on Christian's hand. Owe you? What do you think I— Presents, Balthazar told him. Masters give their fledglings presents. Or so I am told.
I haven't gotten any presents.
Christian murmured. Oh, just you wait. Another grin, but this time aimed at him.
Do I get presents, Damon?
Julian asked.
I will get you whatever you want, my only one.
Damon replied.
Presents? Where did you hear this?
Caemorn looked unconvinced.
It's true.
Fiona chuckled.
You owe Balthazar hundreds of years of presents. One for every year since you turned him.
There's even a list, sort of like an anniversary list, with paper and silver or gold, and on it goes.
Arceus said with a knowing nod. Another frown from Caemorn before he said,
I see. Well, I do not believe in material things being useful for one's fledgling's education, and—
You don't want to give me any presents? Balthazar's lower lip wobbled. Caemorn pursed his lips.
I want to set the right example for you. You shall receive presents from me, but they will be things that will assist you, not useless baubles.
Oh, that sounds— Presents are to delight, Caemorn. You're to delight your fledgling, i.e., me, Balthazar insisted. But though his tone was mock-chastising, his eyes were full of warmth, and his mind was as well.
I shall endeavour to honour both our views on presents.
Caemorn finally agreed.
Now, if you wouldn't mind, I would like—
I've already done it, Balthazar told him, rocking back and forth, like Sophia had when she'd talked about the kittens. There was a long, searching stare at Balthazar by Caemorn.
You didn't put anything in that part of me about inappropriate presents, did you?
What? Me? Never. I trust you will do right by me. Another grin flashed across Balthazar's handsome face.
I will endeavour to make up for what I've done, you know?
Caemorn said quietly.
If that's what you want.
Yes, I know. Go on now. Integrate and end this thing, Balthazar told him, and that hard nugget inside of him cracked, well on its way to destruction. Caemorn extended his right hand towards the unconscious figure. Blue-white mist, like they had seen at the Well of All Souls, left the body and streamed over to Caemorn. It circled him for a moment before sinking into Caemorn's body. Caemorn's eyes were closed. Nothing dramatic seemed to happen.
Caemorn?
Christian asked softly, then changed it to
Callie?
Camorn's eyelids flew open. His silver eyes glowed. He levitated over 3 feet from the tower's floor. His arms went wide, and he let out a cry that echoed throughout the Everdark. There were answering cries from all over the Everdark. The howl of 2 werewolves was loudest. When Camorn slowly lowered to the ground again, the flames of the tower went from purple to blue-white. Destiny was purely in Balthazar's control again. Camorn, or Callie, turned now to look at Damon and Julian for the first time. He lowered himself gracefully to one knee, bowing his head.
My king and my prince, I am the immortal Callie. I am yours to command. I serve.
Camorn said in a voice that was and wasn't his own. But it was the voice Christian and Julian had heard him speak in at Moonfall. Damon put a blessing hand on Camorn's head.
Callie, how I have missed you. Prince Julian and I accept your offer of service. We would not be complete without you.
There was appropriate, serious silence, for a moment at least. Then Balthazar said, "What are we going to do with these bodies, by the way? Bury them? Burn them? That all seems wrong to me. I mean, but we can't keep letting them clutter up the place." Camorn rose up, a small smile on his lips.
I have a solution to this. What about putting the correct souls back in those bodies?
You can do that? I would have thought they'd have left long ago,
Christian said.
I kept them all in soul gems, of course.
Camorn gave a shrug, as if to ask what else should Christian have thought he'd do. In this case, Christian was glad of Callie's determination to let no soul go.
And what about Heath?
Damon asked.
I can restore him as well, if that is what you desire, King Damon.
Camorn said.
Though a body will have to be formed for him, but the Callie Palace has plenty of power. I can even draw some of the other immortal souls here.
But Damon shook his head.
They all still exist, or have been reborn like you and Balthazar were. We'll see them soon.
Join us next time for episode 145, Party Time.
While the ebooks will be available in approximately 18 chapter chunks, one of the things that I've learned about the hardcovers and paperbacks is that 9 books is a lot to store on the shelf. That's why I'm only doing hardcover and paperback printing compilation editions for Everdark Academy. So you're not going to have volumes 1 and then volume 2 and then volume 3 and then volume 4. Instead, the first print book will be books 1 through 3 combined, then 4 through 6, then 7 through 9. Don't worry, we'll still have custom illustrations for each ebook and each audiobook, which will be again offered in 18 chapter chunks. We aren't giving up the chance to show off the art team's beautiful, sexy, and mesmerizing vampires. If you're waiting for print books, the easiest way to stay notified is to join our mailing list. This is where our important communication takes place, and it's easy to reach us by just replying to the email. Link to the sign-up form is in the notes.
Last on Everdark, Balthazar assures Camorn that no matter what, he is not Roan. Convinced that he will not become like the vampire that tortured Balthazar and others, Camorn absorbs this final slice. Now 3 months have passed, and things have heated up with humanity. Episode 145, Party Time. 3 months later.
Balthazar is acting like a deranged toddler, my king,
Camorn remarked. Both of them watched said deranged toddler pinball around the royal courtyard where human and vampire leaders awkwardly socialized with one another. The humans sipped champagne and nibbled on canapes, while the vampires, for the most part, conspicuously ate and drank nothing at all. Humans were very leery when it came to vampires feeding in any form. Damon had noted that somehow even vampires partaking in normal food and drink caused consternation in the mortals. Maybe it was because humans sensed that the vampires received no nourishment or even delight from the consumption and wanted for other food. But regardless of what or who the vampires would eat or not eat, the very best gourmet provisions had been provided for the dignitaries and world leaders that had signed onto the Blood Pact that night. The Blood Pact wasn't really its name. The real title of the agreement was something long and officious, but Damon knew that everyone thought of it as the Blood Pact, and that was sufficient. The Pact laid out rules for vampires feeding and turning. As a central component of the Pact, it had been established that the Everdark Academy would be the sole place where the bloodlines would choose their fledglings. The first class was to come to the Academy in less than a single Earth week. There had been enough applicants to fill over 100 such classes, even as many others protested its very existence. But neither reaction was unexpected. He could feel Seer's cooling presence in his mind as she walked amongst the guests with the ease of a vampire with eyes. But Sophia stayed next to her side, making sure that her mistress's path was always clear. Mephi was in her arms as if an additional part of her wardrobe. Seer was a familiar figure to those people, as she, along with Balthazar, had done much of the negotiating of the Blood Pact. The future had taken shape under her clever fingers, as she sculpted what each side would give and get, and how it would all shake out on the world stage. Damon felt a frisson of excitement at the challenges to come.
Balthazar is alarming the guests.
Camorn continued dryly, as he and Damon surveyed the crowds under the twin moons of the Everdark. They stood in a corner of the courtyard. There was no dais, no rope line, no guards keeping anyone away from him or Camorn, but there was at least 6 feet of space around them at all times. While the world leaders were eager to speak to him and Camorn, Damon kept a command of keep back, mentally going out to all and sundry. He wanted the humans to go through his very qualified people, like Balthazar. Balthazar is merely being sociable, Damon counted, hiding the faint smile on his lips from the other immortal. It was his secret, or perhaps not so secret, pleasure to watch Camorn and Balthazar interact with one another. They were his favorite odd couple.
He is being something,
Camorn muttered. Even amidst the violet and white blooms, the blue-white light cast from the torches, and the gilding rays of the red and blue moons, Balthazar stood out. While most of the other vampires were dressed in modern clothing, he looked like an exotic flower in his dark blue waistcoat. Tight pants and knee-high boots dyed the same midnight shade. A white high-collared shirt that came up to the base of his chin framed his handsome face. His skin looked almost alabaster pale, while his lips were far redder than normal due to a careful application of makeup. With his dazzling silver eyes and waves of sleek hair, he looked very similar to Tom Cruise in the movie Interview with a Vampire. Julian had explained this film to him, and the reason that Balthazar was affecting this particular vampiric look.
It's what they will expect,
Julian had said, as both of them had dressed for that evening's gala. They think that looks more evocative of a vampire than this one. Damon had pointed to his long wolf fur coat that was slung over an ottoman. A smile played across Julian's lips as a faint wheeze of laughter escaped him.
No, I think your particular fashion sense is very evocative of vampire kind. But the rakish fop that Balthazar will resemble is more familiar to them because of the media.
Damon, though, had continued to frown. I begin to think you do not like my coat. Julian turned to look over at him as he clicked one of the silver cufflinks in his dark crimson shirt closed. His expression was one of surprise that Damon cared so deeply about his approval of what he wore, and even deeper affection. His fledgling glided over to him and slid his arms around Damon's neck. The next section of the podcast has been abridged. You must not be nervous interviewing your parents tonight on your show, Damon said quietly. Julian and Christian had decided to document the Harrow's journey in becoming vampires. It would be a great PR piece. According to Rajani, and House Winter was eager to promote it to the world. They would film the first episode that night and release it for everyone to see. Julian gave him a half smile.
It's weird. Christian and I have lived in front of the camera for years, but I'm a little anxious this time.
You started your show to prove your parents were murdered by vampires. So going back to it now, Damon paused, would be understandably fraught.
Yeah, but I think that's why it's so important that I do this.
Julian said, you and Christian make people understand us better. There are many misconceptions about us already out there, Damon remarked. Julian's expression soured briefly. There had been riots in several cities, with people storming the streets with wooden stakes, crosses, holy water, and of all things, garlic. This last one truly perplexed Damon. He supposed they thought it would cause some kind of allergic reaction. But the real danger, he knew, would be when those same people realized that none of those things were effective against vampires, and the dread of impossibly powerful, immortal beings walking among them was truly brought home.
You heard about the suicides, right? That religious group that gathered together and...
Julian shivered. Yes, I heard. He stroked Julian's back. The group had set fire to the building they had all huddled in as they expected the world to end. There had been over 100 people lost, including 25 children.
Which is why I have to make sure tonight's show is perfect.
Julian clenched his jaw.
I have to show them that we're not demons here to destroy them. Really show people the pros and cons about becoming a vampire so it's understandable to most everyone.
There will always be those who distrust us. Some rightfully so. But self-destruction and violence will not be tolerated, Damon said quietly. Watching your parents go through the process may soothe many fears. Julian nodded a little jerkily.
I know my parents are professionals at this, so I have no worries about them. I just want to make you proud and represent us in the best light.
This is the third to last episode of Everdark. By now, you've met all the characters. So, tell me honestly, who are your favorites? I'm curious about who you'd like to see more of in Everdark Academy and what you think will happen. Leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify.
Damon again smoothed his thumb over Julian's cheek. I have no doubts, Julian. I am proud already. His gaze now swung to the vampire prince, who chatted easily with his parents, the President of India and the British Prime Minister. Both countries had considerable fears of too large a vampire population, and how it would exacerbate inequality. They were pressing this point with Julian. They already sensed that his first family of vampires would influence people greatly.
Vampires already exist in the world,
Julian patiently explained.
Remember, the only thing that's changed is your awareness of that fact. So any inequality the existence of vampires creates is already present.
Joanna Harrow added.
And with the existence of the school, there will be the added benefits of people being chosen from all walks of life, rather than simply people a single vampire meets. It will, in fact, lessen some of that inequality.
Jack Harrow smoothly interjected. Not to mention that all possible psychological issues will be screened out, now that Iros and Seer vampires will be involved in all selection of fledglings, so it will be safer in general. The British Prime Minister pursed his lips at the mention of psychological issues.
Yes, we were wondering about how many serial killers...
Vampires are not serial killers.
Julian firmly interrupted.
Not even one?
The Indian president, a thin man with a thinner mustache, asked. Julian shrugged, conceding the point that there could have been one.
Vampires needed to keep their existence a secret. A vampire who killed indiscriminately put everyone at risk, so they had to police themselves. If such a being was found, they were eliminated.
You speak so casually of the death of your own kind,
the British Prime Minister said.
No, on the contrary. I think it's tragic. But the vampires, we understand that with great power, essentially comes great responsibility.
Julian said. Damon sent him a wave of approval. His child was doing well in the spotlight. There was a mental embrace from Julian just before Christian came over.
The interview area is almost set,
Christian said, and gestured towards a couch and chair set up in the corner of the courtyard. House Winter people were swarming over the seating area, adjusting lights and helping to set up multiple cameras.
Great. We should head over there,
Julian said.
Get prepared.
I think Balthazar is causing General Rinashe some alarm,
Camorn said softly, drawing Damon's attention from his child back to the Iros vampire. Oh, yes, I see what you mean, Damon replied. Balthazar,
had just pinned the French general practically up against the fantastical fountain, and was quizzing him in perfect French about his family, friends, and that mistress that he had on the side. The general swallowed often as he stared at Balthazar's mouth as he spoke. The Eiros vampire had his fangs out, though he was smiling.
He is most certainly enjoying himself,
Damon repeated with a chuckle.
He's enjoying himself too much.
Caemorn objected mildly, but there was a touch of censure in his tone. Damon lifted an eyebrow.
Is there such a thing?
Caemorn stood very straight and crossed his arms behind his back.
He is undermining the seriousness of his position, and...
You mean the position that you two share?
Damon reminded him. Caemorn's lips flattened.
Yes, that we share as joint headmasters of Everdark Academy.
Balthazar had now left the general and fluttered over to a Chinese official who, though likely as alarmed as the French general, managed to hide it by being excessively rigid. The Eiros vampire flashed those fangs again, as he spoke this time in fluent Mandarin about secrets the official had kept even from her party bosses. Balthazar steadied her with a touch on her arm and said he would be happy to discuss these matters further if necessary. Damon was sure that any objections from that quarter would now be neutralized.
I sense that you are still uncertain as to my plan for you to work together, Caemorn,
Damon said, drawing his attention back to the other immortal's concerns.
I am only wishing to serve you in the best possible way I can, and if you believe that working with Balthazar is that way, then I fully accept it.
Caemorn answered. Damon could feel the tumult in Caemorn. On one hand, Caemorn resented the idea that he should have to share this position with anyone. He wanted to prove himself to Damon, yet at the same time, Caemorn did not believe he deserved such trust. Perhaps it would be better to be overseen, especially by Balthazar, who knew him so well and was his foil.
I have ultimate faith in you, Callie.
Damon answered the unasked question.
Eiros is not your minder. He is not your jailer. You both are my most trusted counselors.
Caemorn did not jerk in surprise at Damon's understanding of his true concerns, but there was a slight lessening in the tight line of his shoulders as the words were welcome.
I see, my king. I appreciate your faith in me.
Caemorn rolled his shoulders back.
I believe that the two of you working together will make a formidable team,
Damon explained.
Already make one, in fact.
Balthazar was now chatting fangily with the President of the United States of America. The President kept touching the collar of his tuxedo as Balthazar discussed the finer points of espionage, especially the spies that had applied to the Academy under false pretenses. The Secret Service was shifting uncomfortably as well.
That may be true, my king, but I fear he will trigger an international incident before this team will have its chance at a first semester.
Caemorn murmured with a dry purse of his lips.
His goal is to unnerve them,
Damon stated.
Should it not be to assure them that we are willing to follow rules in regards to feeding and turning?
Caemorn asked, a frown appearing on his lips.
That's your job,
Damon said.
Balthazar is to be the wild card, to remind them that we are not like them. Not really, and so they should not be so sure of us at any given moment.
Caemorn considered this.
It is an unusual choice to make Balthazar the one to remind them that we are not human. Surely me with my gift with the dead would unnerve them more naturally.
Ah, but Caemorn, they expect to be unnerved by a Callie vampire. But to think that one such as Balthazar, with all his exotic plumage, is an unknown quantity too, will doubtly unnerve them,
Damon answered. Caemorn nodded after a moment, satisfied with the explanation.
That is clever.
We must keep them back on their heels,
Damon said.
They must never be too sure of anything. For all our strength, there are more of them than us, and sunlight is still our enemy.
Caemorn nodded again. At that moment, Balthazar left the President of the United States and swept over to them. There was a Cheshire cat grin on his handsome face. He grabbed a glass of champagne from a nearby silver tray Damon was amused as the humans stared at the flute filled with golden liquid, as if it should be another color.
"Hello, Balthazar," Damon said. "Chatting up our guests is thirsty work, I see."
Indeed. There was a fresh look of pleasure on Balthazar's face. In contrast, you two are wallflowers.
We are merely observing our guests and making sure everyone is having a good time.
Camorn corrected. You are frightening the guests away. You both look beautiful, of course, but so imposing. You should engage like I do. Be approachable. Balthazar chuckled and drained his glass of champagne. He immediately set down the empty flute and grabbed another, his silver eyes glittering.
I think you are doing quite enough for all of us in terms of socializing.
Camorn's voice was desert dry. I knew you would think that, but did Damon explain?
I did, Balthazar. You are doing an excellent job,
Damon assured him. Balthazar's silver gaze swept over the crowd. There are so many that want to talk to you, but I think that it is good to play hard to get. He turned back to them both with a mischievous grin that had Camorn stiffening, clearly knowing that there was some teasing coming. So, have you complimented Camorn on his outfit? Not to mention his new clean-shaven look, Damon? Camorn was dressed in a blood-red long coat that came to his knees. It was cut to skim his torso and flared at the bottom. Ornate silver buttons and piping accentuated the look. Black pants and boots encased his long, muscular legs. His goatee was now gone. He looked younger without it. More angelic, really, which would amuse Camorn no end. Or perhaps it would worry him, as Artemis Callie had often been referred to as a celestial being. But of course, there was something of Artemis Callie in Camorn now. Camorn's eyes flared with alarm.
Balthazar, there is no need to—
He really wants you to notice him. Balthazar sounded gleeful. He took special care, Damon, to look perfect, just for you. Camorn's pale cheeks flamed, and he shot Balthazar a lethal look.
I did not—
I did notice both.
Damon interrupted smoothly.
You've chosen red as Callie's new color.
Camorn gave a curt nod.
Black seemed,
Cliché? Balthazar chuckled. Camorn glared at him.
Like the past. I wanted something more, vibrant. Lively.
Bloody? Balthazar grinned.
Life-giving.
Camorn sniffed.
Well, I approve. And you look quite handsome, as always, but I do enjoy you without facial hair.
Damon said warmly. Camorn stared at the ground.
I wanted to make a physical break with the past.
New look, new you, Balthazar said.
Exactly.
Another narrow-eyed glance at Balthazar. I thought it might also be because you've read too much YA fiction. Balthazar polished the fingernails of his right hand against his waistcoat. Camorn's narrow-eyed gaze was sharp as a dagger.
What do you mean?
With all the new bloodline crests and the colours, Balthazar continued gleefully on.
We discussed this,
Camorn said.
Each bloodline needed a greater sense of lineage. People align themselves with sports teams and
Harry Potter houses?
So they can identify with a group they admire the traits of and—
We're going to even have uniforms, Balthazar burbled, which will allow me to indulge a few student-teacher fantasies with Christian. Christian must have heard that, as his head lifted and he turned from where he was seated with Julian and the elder Harrows. He shook his head and continued talking. Balthazar let out a bark of delighted laughter.
You must take this seriously, Balthazar,
Camorn said repressively. Oh, I am. I think school uniforms are deadly serious and deadly sexy. Also, I do love my crest. Balthazar pointed out an embroidered crest on his coat. We're going to have all sorts of merchandise made.
It must not be tacky.
Camorn did not look as if he believed Balthazar capable of anything that wasn't tacky. Of course not. I'm having underwear made that has the crest on each butt cheek. Balthazar enthused. There will be a pair or two for you in your rooms in the Iris Palace, Camorn. Camorn pinched the top of his nose but said nothing. Balthazar continued on. But what I'm really looking forward to is quite beyond the physical trappings of our little academy.
What do you mean?
Camorn asked warily. It will be the moment when I welcome our first class and say, "May the odds be ever in your favor." Balthazar grinned.
You will not say that.
Camorn muttered. But it is true. The fun and games we have in store for everyone. Well, one will need luck to make it through. Balthazar rubbed his hands together. Damon's gaze alighted on a large figure stalking his way across the courtyard. The man was huge, with a shock of black hair and beard. He favored fur and leather. He moved with an oiled grace of a panther. 6 other vampires flanked him as he led them effortlessly. Both Camorn and Balthazar had gone quiet. Lord Ryder. Balthazar said the name with little inflection to show his feelings about the Werin vampire. Has been chosen to represent the bloodline at the school.
In protest, of course.
Camorn's silver eyes narrowed at the shape-shifting Werin vampires, who held themselves very much apart from the rest of the group. Of course. They think the rules shouldn't apply to them, Balthazar remarked with a twist of his lips. That they are special. Damon did not share the anger his fellow immortals did about the Werin testing him. It was welcome. They are special, as are all our children, Damon remarked. But they will find that does not mean they are exempt from my rule. I am king. Damn right you are, Balthazar agreed with a grin. Ah, Christian and Julian are about to start the show. Let's go over and see what's what, shall we? Join us next time for episode 146, Dream.
I am so excited that the Everdark audio journey is not ending after this. Chapter 147 is just a resting point before we begin Everdark Academy. When will that start? We are going to take a break between the 2 stories, but we have some great behind-the-scenes recordings from the old and new actors, probably a live stream or 2, and some artwork showcases coming up. The best way to not miss anything is to join our old-fashioned email list. We send everything out through email. I'll post a link to the sign-up form in the notes.
Last on Everdark, the party to celebrate the upcoming opening of the Everdark Academy began with Balthazar playing Shark as he chatted up every nation's officials, mentioning their secrets in passing. Now we turn to the first YouTube show that Julian and Christian have done since becoming vampires. We also met Lord Ryder, a Werin vampire who plays a large role in Everdark Academy, the next serial in this universe. Episode 146, Dream. Christian had the House Winter vampires set up the interview area in the corner of the courtyard. The couch and chairs were surrounded by flowers and had a view of the stunning night sky. Christian wanted their viewers to see the beauty of the Everdark, to be drawn to it just like he and Julian were, and to be overwhelmed by the thought that there was something more out there. The Everdark was a dream. He wanted every human to have this dream, but he wondered if it was something he could make happen. Was this something he was capable of filming? Could he show humanity what they were missing? The elder Harrows would sit on the couch while Julian would be seated on one of the 2 chairs to the couch's left side to interview them. When they brought on another of the vampires, they would sit in the other chair. It was an intimate, almost cozy setup, which was to invite the viewer in, to make them feel as if they were part of a family discussion.
Aim that light a little lower,
Christian instructed one of the House Winter vampires, who eagerly complied.
How is the crew working out?
Rajani asked brightly as she appeared by his side, almost as if by magic. She was dressed in one of her Jedi robes, but this one appeared to be more formal, likely in honor of the occasion. It was a dark blue with dark grey piping, and brought out the silver in her eyes.
They're making me feel a little superfluous.
Christian admitted as he looked through one of the 6 cameras' viewfinders.
6 cameras. I remember when we had 1 shaky cam and that was it.
There were over a dozen vampires assisting them now, from setting up cameras and lights to helping with wardrobe, makeup, and hair. Christian couldn't turn around without one of them smiling at him, asking how they could help.
On the contrary, this show is nothing without you and Julian. We're just here to facilitate,
Rajani said eagerly. They were doing more than that. Though it wasn't said, it was clear that Rajani saw their show as a prime PR vehicle to sell humanity on vampires. Christian agreed with her. He and Julian had a large, loyal audience. Ever since it had come out that vampires were real, and that Julian and Christian had not only discovered them but become one of them, their old videos had been staggered by comments. Their email boxes were overflowing, private messages were constant. In addition to those vampires helping on the production side, Rajani also had a group of House Winter vampires working through all of the feedback to see what the public mood was and respond appropriately. Mostly, their audience was excited and curious, while only a relative few called them traitors, bloodsuckers, or demons. There were worse things as well, but Christian noted that Rajani had her people filter out the most objectionable ones, even though both he and Julian had told her that they wanted to know what people were thinking, especially the bad stuff. But evidently there was only so much the spy master was willing to expose Julian and himself to. It was touching in a way and frustrating in others.
I guess I'm just used to a more stripped-down production,
Christian finally said.
You have more resources now. We want you to focus on the content while we handle all of the small details.
Rajani told him. Christian sighed. Though part of him chafed at this handling, he knew that it was important. Just before the gala, he and Julian had been watching news reports regarding riots in London, Rome, and New York. People were protesting the opening of the academy. There had been suicides and murders. Some poor goth kid had been staked because the killers had assumed they were vampires since they wore black and favored dark music. So anything that he and Julian could do to lower the temperature around the world was a good thing.
Christian, should we sit here?
Joanna asked. Hair and makeup surrounded them, dusting a little light powder on their handsome faces and smoothing back a stray, unruly hair or two. They needed little help, as both glowed with health and vitality. A sweep of their surface thoughts told Christian that they were far calmer than himself. The Harrows, though, were used to being on television, and their words being, well, controversial. Their desire to support Julian, though, kept their nerves steady, making people less afraid of vampires, more accepting of the immortals, would make Julian's life better, so that was what they would do.
That's perfect,
Christian told him as he adjusted the camera angle slightly. Christian's mother came up behind the couch and touched Joanna Harrow on the shoulder. A firm squeeze and smile. Though his and Julian's parents had spent every day together since the Harrows had been brought back to life, his parents still couldn't quite believe their best friends were back. His mother often just touched Joanna to assure herself that the other woman was truly there. Her athletic form was clothed not in the usual cargo pants and t-shirts that she usually wore, but a black sleeveless dress with a high Chinese collar. Jack was in a tuxedo, looking very much like an elegant, predatory James Bond. Christian's father looked tweedy and scholarly in comparison. He was behind the couch now too, speaking to Jack and Joanna.
Have your parents had any thoughts of, joining us?
Rajani asked carefully. Christian drew in a steadying breath.
Not yet.
In fact, his parents had studiously avoided talking or even thinking about it. He found himself listening to the patter of their subconscious now as they spoke to the Harrows. While Jack and Joanna were absolutely certain of their choice to become vampires, it seemed his own parents were on the opposite end of the spectrum.
It's one thing for Jack and Joanna to be turned. They're so athletic and, well, young.
His mother had confessed with an almost embarrassed shrug.
And you guys aren't young?
Christian had lifted an eyebrow. Now that he spoke to people routinely who were hundreds of years old, it was hard to treat half a century of life as old. She fussed with the front of her shirt.
They've been dead for over a decade, Christian, but the bodies that Caemorn created for them still look the same as the ones they had back then. Your father and I, we've aged, become old fuddy-duddies in comparison.
Mom, you realize that once you're turned that you'll be perfectly healthy. More than that, stronger, faster, without any aches or pains. You'll have nearly boundless energy and—
A dowdy vampire?
His mother interrupted him, with a moe of distaste on her face.
What?
He laughed.
That's what I'd be.
His mother flapped her arms at her sides.
I have just got comfortable with the idea of being middle-aged, and now, oh, I don't know. Oh, I can see the Harrows as vampires, but me? I don't know.
He'd gone over to her then and grasped her forearms.
You know that there isn't a look for a vampire, right? You've seen Charlie. He loves taking on the visage of a friendly grandmother. William looks like a teenager. And there are plenty of middle-aged looking vampires too. They're all old enough to make you and Dad seem like teenagers.
I realize it's foolish and vain and stupid, and
His mother hung her head.
I'm afraid, Christian. I'm afraid I won't recognize me. I'm afraid I won't fit in as a vampire or with who I am now.
She shook her head and then slowly added,
Your father and I have never been religious, as you know, but
Knowing there's something after this life makes you think you're meant to leave it?
His voice was soft, and though he had posed the statement as a question, he knew that was how she felt. She wasn't alone. Religious worship had shot up since vampires had been revealed. There were those humans even joining the Order. Kali vampires were endlessly interviewed about the afterlife. Kamorn, though, was very careful in what he allowed to be discussed. She nodded miserably.
But I don't want to leave you. I don't want to grow feeble while others stay the same. I want to be apart, but, I just don't know yet.
Christian understood his mother's conflict. In some ways, it would have been nice for his parents to have the clarity and certainty of the Harrows, but that wasn't who they were. He tried not to take it personally that they might not choose the vampire path. He knew they loved him, but this had to be their unequivocal choice. He didn't want them to regret it. Christian turned to Rajani.
You're worried if my parents don't choose to be turned, that people might make a negative inference.
Your parents must do what is right for them as individuals.
Rajani said, even as she mentally acknowledged what he stated to be true.
I hope they join us. The Harrows are, well, they were television celebrities before and now. Your parents are more...
Normal?
Christian lifted an eyebrow. She grinned and nodded.
Yes, maybe more approachable is the word. They seem more like people others might know or be.
I'll let you know what they decide,
Christian said. She nodded and disappeared into the crowd, once more almost like magic. He was sure she would pop back up again when needed. He turned back to the cameras, checking that they were angled just right, as Julian sat down in the chair preparing to interview his parents. But he was not alone for long, as a tall, slender figure holding a purple velvet bag lovingly in his arms joined him. Elgar and his skull, which he had agreed reluctantly to put in a bag for the evening, had arrived.
Elgar, I didn't know if we would see you here tonight,
Christian admitted.
I'm glad you are.
Crowds of humans were often too much for the elder vampire to bear, though his thirst had been long quenched. The memory of starvation still held him tightly, and he feared he might lose control. And Elgar wasn't a big fan of lots of people in any event. Elgar regarded his bare feet that stuck out from under the dark grey robes he wore. Shoes were something he just wasn't terribly fond of. Thankfully, they had gotten him to wear something other than sweatpants and a hoodie. "You and Julian need support," Elgar said, "and Master might wish someone whispered to."
Julian and I appreciate your presence,
Christian said fondly.
I hope there'll be no need of whispering, though. I'm surprised that Damon hasn't sent you to one of the big cities where there's unrest.
Not yet. Emotion must be expended. Then whispering will help more later, Elgar explained, this time staring at a power cord with intense concentration.
I see.
Christian felt a finger of cold run down his spine. But it was not from Elgar's words. It was from the ghost. Few ghosts could come inside of Nightvallen. The city itself seemed to drain them so only the strongest could survive for long. But with all the life here, the spirits could not help themselves from drifting over the water, through the woods, and passing under the gates. "What is wrong?" Elgar asked, noting his sudden alertness.
Uninvited guest,
Christian said. "I do not see anything." Elgar frowned as his silver eyes swept the surrounding area before dropping back down to his feet.
Doesn't have enough power to be visible to most, but it will if I don't stop it,
Christian said. His gaze slid to it. It appeared to be an old man with a crooked, almost curved back. His cheeks were carved out as if the flesh had been scooped out with spoons. His thin lips were parted, and Christian could see a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. They spread in a smile, and the old thing giggled, as if testing him. Not as if, it is. The creature extended one bony hand towards the female Chancellor of Germany. A single swipe of her back could drain half her energy in moments. Christian's right hand slid into his pocket, where he kept a soul gem just for this purpose. His gaze locked with that of the creature, who flashed him another grin followed by a hiss. The face no longer looked human, and he doubted this creature ever had been. He fumbled with the gem, dropping it back into the depths of his pocket as he tried to pull it out. Lisette suddenly appeared behind the creature, her own soul gem ready. Christian felt a wave of annoyance that she had to step in.
Let Christian do it, Lisette.
Camorn's voice was in both of their minds. Lisette stiffened at the unexpected mental command, but then bowed her head and put her soul gem away. Master is letting Kali use his mind to communicate, Elgar said with a touch of surprise.
Yes,
Christian said, and drew out his soul gem successfully.
they're working through another lot like that. He'll be having Balthazar raise the dead in no time.
The old creature had taken his momentary inattention to lope away towards some delegates from the Far East. Christian swiftly threaded his way through the crowd, keeping the creature in sight.
My dear boy, you're Christian, correct?
A plump man stepped in front of him. Christian grimaced.
I'm sorry. I need to...
Where are you off to?
The plump man's cheeks were flushed from alcohol.
I was hoping to speak with your, master, but he seems...
Silence!
Christian commanded the man, even as he saw the creature reach for a delegate's leg. The man's mouth hung open, silenced in mid-word. It had come easily to compel this man. He hoped that he had not just created an international incident, but better to silence one than have another drop dead.
Sorry about that, but I have to take care of something. You're released.
Christian cried as he slipped past the man who blinked as if coming out of a deep sleep. The creature hissed at him when he mentally grasped hold of it. It felt like plunging himself mentally into cold, dark water that had a layer of slime over the top. Sweat coated Christian's brow. The creature fought him, trying to touch the nearest human.
Come to me,
Christian demanded and thrust out the soul gem. Another hiss. But the creature took a step towards him. It tried to pull back, but he clamped down mentally as hard as he could. Kicking and spitting, he dragged it to the soul gem. The gem glowed blue-white and grew icy cold in his hand. One of the delegates was blinking at him owlishly, having seen the flash of light but not the creature that was captured. Christian gave him a small smile and bow before turning on his heel to go back to the interview area. He wiped a shaking hand over his sweaty brow. He felt like he'd run a marathon.
Excellent work.
Camorn said, and it had Balthazar's approval too.
I shall show you how to turn the creature to work for you.
I don't know if I want this thing anywhere near me,
Christian admitted as he threaded his way through the crowd.
Many creatures that are unpleasant are useful.
Camorn told him.
With the students coming, it will be good to have another creature on guard.
I suppose you're right,
Christian said reluctantly. Just then, Tarn and Farun raced in front of him, smelling like wet dogs. The two werewolves made a beeline for Camorn.
Looks like Tarn and Faroon were playing in the water again,
Christian remarked. There were gasps and restrained cries as the world leaders jumped out of the werewolves' way. They kneeled down in front of Camorn, panting and making curious growling sounds. They were speaking to Camorn in their own way.
I had them watching the ocean. There has been activity there.
Camorn answered.
What kind of activity?
Christian asked. Christian saw Camorn pat both werewolves on the head. They lifted their snouts and howled in pleasure before Camorn sent them off again. They bounded off once more, having checked in with the Kali vampire. The world leaders stared, frozen for some moments before conversation began again.
Hungry things,
Camorn answered obliquely.
Since Damon's return, more creatures have woken.
And now, with Nightfallen occupied?
Yes, they are drawn here. That is why we must recruit as many creatures as we can.
Camorn told him.
All we would need would be for one of the students to die and not be reborn into a second life.
A crowd was starting to form around the interview area. He felt Balthazar's mind touch his, as his master, the Vampire King, and Caemorn all approached. For some reason, the image of boxer shorts with the Eiros logo appeared in his mind's eye. Then those shorts were filled out by Balthazar's arse cheeks, and his master was mentally wagging them about. When Balthazar finally sent him an image of his master just wearing the boxer shorts while perched on a desk, making a come-hither gesture, Christian let out a snort, which had Elgar actually looking at him. Christian blushed and shook his head to indicate it was nothing. He tried focusing on the cameras.
What are you doing, Balthazar?
Christian asked, as the three impressive immortals glided across the courtyard to him. Oh, enjoying the party, Balthazar answered with a grin.
You're teasing Caemorn somehow, aren't you?
Christian grinned and shook his head. Well, someone has to, and that is the essence of fun for me, Balthazar admitted, completely unrepentant.
I'm sure Caemorn is thrilled.
Oh, he is. He most certainly is. The crowd parted on either side of them, leaving 6 feet of distance on all sides of the three immortals. More than a few world leaders opened their mouths and reached tentatively towards the triumvirate, but stopped at the last moment, their eyes going empty and their mouths slack before they turned away. Damon was not feeling social, despite the party atmosphere. Master, Kali, my king, Elgar said to the velvet bag and bowed. Elgar, I'm so proud of you. You followed the bag suggestion, Balthazar said as he slung an arm around Christian's shoulders and kissed his temple. Yes, master. You were right that a skull causes too much consternation, even though it is a comforting object, Elgar agreed.
People are very strange about bones, Elgar, but I completely understand your point of view,
Caemorn murmured. Are you still upset that Damon suggested you not have your bone bear here? Balthazar laughed.
The bear is quite sweet,
Christian said loyally. It stinks to high heaven, Balthazar said with a shake of his head. Among other things, I thought the werewolves were enough excitement for the evening, Damon remarked.
Are we going to have the bone bear on camera?
Julian asked. Makeup and hair people had finally been shooed away. Julian and his parents looked like the incredibly handsome family they were. Damon swept over to his fledgling and embraced him. No bone bears today, Damon said.
That's probably best,
Jace said.
Yesterday, Tarn grabbed the poor bear's leg and ran off with it.
They were hungry. I kept them from hunting too long,
Caemorn said with a faint grimace. Christian couldn't help but laugh, though, as he remembered the werewolves and the bear charging one another, knocking things and people over as they play-fought with one another throughout the Eiros Palace. As strange as their new lives were, Christian realized he wouldn't change anything. He remembered how narrow his view had been before they'd found the vampires, how he hadn't believed in anything he couldn't see or touch. And now, here he was, freed of David's ghost, in love with an immortal, a student of the dead and the mind, a friend to beings that were ancient and wise and perhaps in some ways unknowable. But he was going to give knowing them and understanding them and everything else his best shot.
Are you ready to do this thing, Christian?
Julian asked, slipping from Damon's arms back into his seat. Christian looked from his best friend to the Harrows, to his parents, and then to Balthazar. He wanted everyone to experience the Everdark. He wanted them to feel the possibilities of it. He wanted them to dream of it, like he did.
I'm more than ready,
Christian said as he went to the computer setup which controlled all of the cameras.
Let's do this thing.
Join us next time for episode 147. What's next?
On my serial site, wraithrain.com, members can leave a comment after every chapter that I post. Here are a few comments that came from chapter 147, the last chapter of Everdark. Finishing this story now, and knowing that there's still more with Everdark Academy and Equinox, makes this so worth it. This is honestly one of the most amazing stories I've read, and I'm so happy there's still more to come. I'm so sad I've finished it now, but also so happy it will continue in Everdark Academy. I started out with Dragon's Reign on Spotify, But later, with Everdark 2, bought all the ebooks and waited for them since book 3 came out. I couldn't wait any longer and bought a membership, and I'm so happy I did. I will now read through every single book on the site. Keep up the lovely work. Another satisfying happy ending. I love all the characters so much and the whole universe you built here. I'm glad it doesn't have to end, and I can't wait to start reading Academy. I love Kaymorn and Elgar, so I hope they'll play into it. Love your work as always. This is all to assure you guys that there is a lot more to come, and I'm really excited to share it with you. Next week is the last audio episode of Everdark. If you're listening to this in real time, we're going to do a premiere on YouTube and then a live stream after to celebrate. I hope you can join us. Look on the live tab of our YouTube channel and you'll see when it's scheduled in your local time. We'll also be on Facebook and Twitch, but YouTube is the easiest way to participate in the chat since that's where 90% of the audience is.
Last on Everdark, we followed Christian as he prepared for the show to begin. Now we come to the final chapter of Everdark, where we join Julian and his parents for their show. But don't worry, while Everdark is done, Everdark Academy will pick right up. Join us for the next serial in this series. Now we hope you enjoy this chapter. Episode 147. What's next?
Vampires are real,
Julian said to the camera, repeating the same words he'd spoken that had started this whole adventure.
and tonight we're going to start to answer your questions about them, and even tell you how you might become one.
Julian felt a mixture of rightness and unreality as he stared past the camera at Christian, who gave him a thumbs up, and then at Damon, who smiled with benevolent pride at him. He felt the Vampire King's love and protection surrounding him. The nervousness he'd felt earlier was held at bay as he mentally grasped onto Damon. Then he turned to his parents, and he found himself blinking almost rapidly as tears burned behind his eyes. This was a moment he never thought he would experience. Not in his wildest dreams had he hoped to have them in an existence like this. He had them back. They were right here, and still it was hard to believe. His mother reached out and touched his knee.
We're here with you, honey.
His father was looking a little teary-eyed himself as he said,
It's okay, Julian. We're here.
You've got this, Julian.
Christian sent.
They're here. Let the pain go.
The pain, the memory of their loss was still there like an overlay to his current happiness. It was almost like he was living two parallel lives. One where his parents died and he vainly sought revenge against those responsible, yelling into the void, and this life, where they were returned to him exactly as they had been, and he got to have them with him forever.
It's hard to believe this is real,
He admitted.
Yeah, but it also feels meant.
Christian answered.
Like when we began this, it was always meant to end this way. Every step we took was to bring it here.
Julian covered his mother's hand with his own and squeezed it. He gave a watery grin to the camera and said,
For those of you just tuning in for the first time, my name is Julian Harrow. My best friend Christian Thorne and I started this show to prove to you the existence of preternatural beings.
A second camera was pointed at Christian, who waved briefly at it even as he kept his gaze firmly on the viewfinder. His best friend still wasn't fond of being in front of the camera.
We specifically wanted to prove the existence of vampires because
Julian looked at his parents, and then over at Kaymorn, who was standing very still, staring at the ground very much like Elgar did, though he held no skull.
Because my parents believed they were real, and I wanted to prove they were right.
Kaymorn lifted his head and stared at Julian at that moment. Shock was written large across his angelic face. He had fully expected Julian to talk about his parents being murdered by vampires to keep the immortals' existence secret, but Julian didn't see the need to do that. What happened with Artemis Callie, Kaymorn and his parents was in the past, and it would stay there. The future was so much more important.
My child,
Damon said simply with warmth.
you have chosen wisely.
Thank you for letting me figure this out.
Julian replied. Damon hadn't told him what to say about this. In fact, the Vampire King had made it clear to one and all, including Rajani, that Julian and Christian would determine the content of the show. Whatever they wanted to tell the world about vampires was their choice, and Julian was making that choice. He was the Vampire Prince, and the security and safety of his people was paramount. He would not allow Artemis Callie to cause any more damage.
Caemorn, I forgive you. I said that before, but I want you to know it, to feel it.
Julian sent to the Callie vampire.
I know my parents are considering asking to be your fledglings, and it's okay with me. In fact, I'd like that. They'd be safe with you.
Caemorn inclined his head.
I would be honored.
I trust you, Caemorn, and I have your back.
Caemorn nodded once more. His emotions pressed against the carefully constructed facade of indifference he kept in place. Damon put an arm around Caemorn's back. Even Balthazar, who had retrieved Mephi from Sophia, pressed the cat against Caemorn's cheek. The Callie vampire lifted an eyebrow, but then patted the kitten on the head. Julian felt his own throat grow tight with emotion, and his face hurt from how broadly he was smiling. He wasn't the best when one had to speak at a camera, but he thought that showing his emotions would cause their audience to understand what a momentous occasion this was.
What Christian and I had no idea about when we started this journey was that what we thought we knew about vampires, well, we didn't know the half of it.
Julian gestured to his parents.
Which brings me to our guest tonight, my parents, Jack and Joanna Harrow.
His mother and father smiled and gave brief waves to the camera. His father slid one arm over his mother's shoulders. Both looked handsome and relaxed. Julian felt all eyes upon them in that room. There were those among the world leaders who couldn't quite believe that his parents hadn't simply been hiding out for a decade and a half, that they had been truly dead, their bodies destroyed. Their souls, still remaining earthbound, seemed unbelievable to many. To think that Caemorn could create bodies for people who were long dead was just too fabulous, and too terrifying in a way to accept fully. Julian understood the conflict. Such power was godlike. And if the immortals were capable of godlike powers, did that mean they were gods? Did that mean they should be worshipped? Feared? Both.
16 years ago, my parents died in a car crash,
Julian said and swallowed the lump in his throat. He had carried the burden of their deaths like a lodestone around his neck for all that time. He had flared with anger when people had claimed their deaths were an accident. He felt Caemorn's eyes on him again, knowing the pain that this belief had cost him before. These were words that he had sworn to prove false, but now he was happy to say them and for everyone to believe them.
But as you see, they're very much alive. These aren't actors. This isn't CGI or some deep-fake technology. My parents have been brought back from the dead,
Julian said. He asked the camera.
But how is that possible?
How, indeed, Damon murmured. Callie has exceeded even my expectations.
There's fear in this room, and disbelief,
Julian pointed out.
Just as many people believe this must be fake as believe such powers are the work of the devil.
Yes, fear is here. It will always be here, Damon agreed. And we must take advantage of it. We must embrace it. But there will be plenty who will also see the wonder in what we can do. It is to those people that you are speaking now. You're doing well.
You've heard that there are different vampire bloodlines, each stemming from a different immortal.
Julian reminded his audience. He saw world leaders glance at Caemorn. Of all the immortals, except for Damon, he was the one that fascinated and worried them the most.
The Callie bloodline has the ability to raise and control the dead, and Callie themselves has the ability to create new bodies and bring the dead to life, among other things.
Julian smiled at Caemorn. The true extent of Callie's powers were unknown. Caemorn and Christian were already testing boundaries that had never been pressed before. He held a hand up to the camera, as if anticipating the audience opening their mouths to ask millions of questions. The world leaders that were clustering about the interview area looked ready to start peppering him with those same questions.
I know you have a lot of questions and concerns and ideas, and we're going to explore all of them,
Julian assured their audience.
But there's too much to discuss in any one program. If you don't hear the answer to your question tonight, there will be another show which will answer it. A website has been set up with answers to many questions as well, and it's linked in the description below. But I think a good place to start is to hear from my parents themselves about their experiences. Mom, Dad, you died and came back. What was that all like? Was there a light, a tunnel?
His mother answered first, her eyes going slightly unfocused as she remembered.
There was a doorway. There was something beyond it, something vast.
We could see other spirits going towards it, going through it, his father added.
Were you drawn to it?
Julian found himself asking. He and his parents had only discussed generally what they would talk about on the show. They hadn't wanted to know the questions in advance because their answers might seem rehearsed, and that would go against the candid feel he and Christian were going for. But he also hadn't had the courage to ask these specific questions before. He hadn't wanted to know if they had desired to leave this world for the next, but the question had left his lips and there was no drawing it back in. But both of his parents shook their heads, and he felt some tension bleed out of him. They weren't lying to spare his feelings either. There was a concrete certainty within both of them that they hadn't wanted to leave.
No, it wasn't time for us. There was a voice? Well, I can't quite explain it adequately.
His mother's forehead furrowed.
I could tell it was calling the other spirits, but not us.
We weren't ready to go, his father said, and it didn't want us. It wasn't meant for us.
Julian shifted a little in his seat.
Was it because your deaths were unexpected?
I don't think so,
his father answered.
There was just this feeling that our fate wasn't to leave. It wasn't because we simply desired to keep going, but it felt like there was a bigger plan.
When Kamorn brought us back,
his mother said, and a camera swung towards the immortal who stood very still and looked like an angelic master of death.
It was easy to slip back into a body again. It felt right. And then when we realized we could become vampires, there was this sense.
His mother lifted her hands as if grasping physically at a concept.
That this was what we were meant to do.
So you feel that you're fated to become vampires?
Julian asked.
Yes,
she answered. His father nodded.
Absolutely. I've never felt so certain of anything in my life. We're anchored here.
Does the fact that I am one influence you at all?
Julian asked.
I'm sure that families are wondering what they would do if a sibling, a child, a parent, or a partner would be chosen to be turned.
Leaving you when we did, when you were so young, has affected us,
his father admitted, clearing his throat. His handsome face looked bleak for a moment.
I can't deny that. The thought of healing that breach, of assuring you that we will always be with you, is important to both your mother and I.
But it can't be the only reason to seek immortality,
Julian prompted. Both shook their heads.
We know there is something more than this life, not out of faith, but out of fact. We know that for many people, the next life is what is waiting for them and where they are meant to go.
His mother explained carefully. She and his father linked their nearest hands together.
Beyond your sense that you were meant to become vampires, what else did you consider in making your choice?
Julian asked.
I also believe there needs to be a deep understanding of what forever means,
his mother said.
We've been talking to many vampires of all ages to understand what it's like to have the world you were born into completely disappear without a trace.
You have to be able to adapt. Some of the vampires in this room were born before electricity, let alone motor cars, computers, and cell phones. We had some moments ourselves getting used to the new technology, and we were only gone from the world for 16 years,
his father said with a shrug of his broad shoulders.
From everything the vampires have told us, you have to embrace change, want it,
his mother added.
I think our drive for adventure and discovery helps with that. We're always searching, wanting to know and understand things.
So, would you recommend that young people, mine and Christian's age, be the ones that seek to be turned?
Julian asked.
His father grinned at him. I actually think having more years under your belts is better, in general.
I agree,
his mother said.
Though you and the king were fated to be together, I think it would actually be better if most people who were older than 30, were chosen. Those who have enough experience of life, perhaps had children already if they wanted them, should be the ones that are turned if they meet the other criteria.
Julian, in fact, knew that Camorn and Balthazar had chosen people all over 18 to attend the first year of the academy. The students were from all age groups, professions, classes, and backgrounds. It was very rare for a young person to be chosen for the very reasons his parents had stated.
Now, you've decided that you want to become vampires, but that's just the beginning of the choices to be made, isn't it?
Julian asked them.
There's the different bloodlines, and of course, you have to find a master or masters that appeal to you, and you to them.
His father nodded. We've been very lucky in that a representative from every bloodline has offered us the chance to join them.
That's going to be a rare thing, though.
Julian stated more than asked.
Yes, our position as your parents is obviously giving us potentialities that many won't have.
His mother answered. But since we do have this opportunity, it's a pretty incredible thing, his father said as he rubbed his thumb over the back of his mother's hand.
There's also challenges because you're a monogamous couple,
Julian pointed out and pinked slightly. His parents gave semi-awkward laughs and flushed too.
That's right. We're looking for someone who will respect that our relationship to each other and to you is paramount,
his mother said firmly.
And you've agreed to let Christian and I follow your journey in becoming vampires, from learning about the bloodlines to meeting various individuals who want to offer you a second life,
Julian said. His father nodded. That's right. We want to be as transparent as possible about what happens and our thought process. His mother leaned forward and said earnestly to the camera.
We want people to see that there is nothing to be afraid of, that this is a marvelous thing, that the world is so much more than we ever knew.
Our goal, so long ago in our show, Believe, and in all our books and scholarly works, was to inspire people to open their minds and their hearts to the supernatural, his father said. We hope to continue that work. Julian turned to face the camera once more.
Thank you for tuning in. This is just the first of many episodes that'll capture my parents' journey in becoming vampires. Christian and I will also be showing you some of the wonders of the Everdark, the Academy, and all things vampire. Cut!
Christian called, and the red lights turned off on all of the cameras. Julian drew in a breath. His parents were smiling. This was just the first part of several they would film that night. But it was done. Other than the editing, which now would be handled by House Winter vampires, freeing him and Christian up to simply approve what they put together. His gaze met Christian's. His best friend gave him a satisfied nod.
That went really well,
his mother said as she pulled Julian in for a hug. He smelled the light violet perfume she wore and felt the warmth of her body against his. She was real. She was here. He held her fiercely. It will definitely whet people's appetites to know more. His father agreed as he slung an arm around Julian as well. His father's spicy scent filled his nostrils. Julian remembered how he had sniffed his father's sweaters after he was gone, trying to remember his father's love and strength. He'd worn one of them for weeks on end. Now his father was right there. Julian gripped him back. He was solid. He was real. Neither of his parents would ever leave him now.
You guys did great,
Julian said to his parents as he pulled back from the hugs.
You didn't seem nervous at all.
You made us feel quite at home,
his mother assured him.
I did not realize you heard a voice,
Julian said. We did, but like we said, it wasn't for us. His father patted his shoulder. We knew we were meant to come back to you. His mother pressed their foreheads together.
We're going to have the life that we always should have had.
Better than that,
Julian said as his gaze slipped to Damon.
Much, much better than that, actually.
Yes, both his parents agreed. Even better than that. Excellent work. Drinks all around. Balthazar crowed as he pushed flutes of champagne into everyone's hands. Mephi mewed triumphantly as he perched on Balthazar's right shoulder. Christian reached up and gave the kitten a treat. Julian took a deep swallow of the sparkling liquid as Damon slipped an arm around his waist. He leaned against the vampire king, relishing that solidity and strength. Camorn immediately went to his parents. They were speaking in low tones about what they should and shouldn't talk about in regards to the afterlife. Measuring carefully what information came out about that was one way to keep people from becoming afraid. Or too afraid. In a flash, Fiona and Arceus appeared in their midst. Both were dressed in their finest order robes of leather, chains, and exposed skin. They had been teleporting between various of the cities where there were protests, observing and keeping the peace if necessary. Fiona's Wyvern vampires were being kept busy just as Balthazar's Iros vampires were. Julian hoped that when the video was released, that it would help things.
Congratulations, everyone! I see you finished the first broadcast.
Arceus beamed as he took a flute from Balthazar.
You made it back in time! I knew you would!
Sophia beamed as she and Sia joined them.
In time for what?
Fiona asked as she took a flute from Balthazar as well.
For a toast, of course.
Sophia beamed.
The Academy will be an incredible success.
Sia said with a smile.
And Julian, you mustn't worry. Your words will reach many, even those who think they want nothing to do with us.
Balthazar's eyebrows rose. Oh, really? Someone is going to come to the Academy who doesn't want to be there? How could that be? I assure you that Caemorn and I have planned for everything. Christian let out a choked laugh as he laced the fingers of one of his hands with Balthazar's.
You do realize that you've just tempted fate big time there, right, Balthazar?
On the contrary, what could possibly go wrong with Caemorn and myself in charge? Balthazar asked with an expansive gesture. Christian shook his head. Caemorn's eyebrows rose. Arceus and Fiona laughed. Julian couldn't help but grin. A small smile played on Damon's lips.
King Damon?
Sophia lifted her glass. Ah, yes. It's time. I propose a toast, Damon said with a broad smile. Everyone lifted their glasses. The Vampire King brought the sparkling liquid into the light. To what comes next?
To what comes next?
They all cried in unison, and they clinked glasses. Julian drank down his champagne. It felt like fireworks in his veins. He turned so that he was now chest to chest with Damon. He looked into those crimson glowing eyes. Damon leaned down, and their lips met in a searing kiss. With you by my side, Julian. Damon swore. I am eager to meet every challenge.
Whatever comes next,
Julian sent with all his love.
Will be wonderful and exciting and an adventure, because we'll be together, Damon. Always.
Thank you so much for joining us for this story. We can't do what we do without your enthusiastic support. We hope you continue this journey with us as the story carries on in Season 2, Everdark Academy.
If you've listened to every episode of Everdark, you've spent a lot of time with us. For every hour you've heard, at least 8 hours went into making it. So I'm very happy that this collective effort between me, the actors, and the audio staff was all worth it. This is not the end of the story. We are again partnering with Her Grace Reed's voice studio to produce the sequel, Everdark Academy. It's 169 chapters long and will be our next full cast audio production. It picks up right where Everdark leaves off. The focus is on new characters and a new couple, but most of the Everdark characters are also in Everdark Academy. I should warn you, the sequel has a lot of spicy scenes in the beginning, and if you're listening to the public podcast, these early episodes will have some edits, big edits, but we'll warn you when they happen. When will the first episode of Everdark Academy come out on YouTube and Spotify? We're taking a break to run our awesome behind-the-scenes material and get organized. If you want to be notified as soon as we have any updates, the best way is to join our old-fashioned mailing list, which I will link to in the notes. If you're dying to know what happens in Everdark Academy and you just can't wait, you can read the story in full on my membership site, wraithrain.com. All 169 chapters are available online as a web novel. Joining the membership has a huge added benefit because when we post the first episode on YouTube and Spotify of Everdark Academy, we're uploading the first uncensored episodes to the members podcast. Thank you so much for joining me and the cast and crew on this epic vampire journey. I hope you'll stay tuned for episode 1 of Everdark Academy, coming to you very soon.